This female officer had a special ability. She could predict the future through sketches. In her dream, Shi-hun saw a murder that would happen tonight, and her dream came true. A gang boss wanted to use a hired dead man to escape punishment. All the hired needed to do was impersonate the boss and die, so the boss could escape police's trap. The hired dead man would also receive a worthy amount of money. However, the hired dead man was afraid to jump in the cold water. The boss ordered the subordinates to help him. The hired dead man was afraid and begged the boss to spare his life. At this moment, the young officer Dong-soo came to intervene. As soon as they saw the police, the thugs were already holding weapons, and they immediately surrounded Dong-soo. Dong-soo laughed and announced that the boss had been arrested. The boss ordered his subordinates to charge. Dong-soo coldly pulled out a gun and threatened them. The boss asked Dong-soo how much he was paid, because he would pay Dong-soo double, but Dong-soo flatly refused. His mission was to put the boss in jail. The boss knew he couldn't bribe Dong-soo, so he ordered his men to beat Dong-soo. One of the men hit Dong-soo's hand with an iron pipe. The unexpected blow knocked the gun out of Dong-soo's hand. Dong-soo stood up, holding his injured arm. This time, Dong-soo was really angry. He charged straight into the enemy encirclement with his bare hands. Dong-soo used all his strength to lift one man, then he easily avoided the next. He angrily kicked the attackers away. Each of Dong-soo's punches contained all his strength. One by one, the enemies were knocked down by Dong-soo. The men only managed to cause a little injury to Dong-soo. Feeling that his underlings could not stop Dong-soo, the boss quickly fled. However, Dong-soo had his eyes on him. He rushed forward and kicked the boss's underling away. Then he threw a punch and knocked out the remaining one. After Dong-soo defeated all his subordinates, he intended to chase after the boss, but was stopped by the hired dead man. He held a gun to Dong-soo's face because he needed money to support his family. At this moment, Shi-hyun appeared. She loudly asked what they were doing here. Dong-soo was surprised when a strange girl appeared here. Shi-hyun told the hired dead man that she came here for him. However, the hired dead man did not need Shi-hyun's help. He trembled and pointed the gun at Shi-hyun. Shi-hyun cleverly waited until the hired dead man was off guard. She shined a flashlight into his eyes. The hired dead man panicked and pulled the trigger at Shi-hyun, but she quickly dodged the bullet. Then she quickly approached and knocked the hired dead man down. Then she kicked the gun to the floor. Dong-soo asked who the girl was, but he remembered the fugitive boss. Dong-soo left the hired dead man behind and chased after the boss. While Shi-hyun was distracted, the hired dead man climbed onto the railing of the ship. Shi-hyun tried to convince him to stop, but the hired dead man did not listen. Suddenly, the image of the hired dead man dying appeared in Shi-hyun's mind. Shi-hyun quickly ran to pull him up. However, the hired dead man did not want to live. He needed the money to save his daughter. Shi-hyun said he was just running away from reality. What he needed to do was fight along with his daughter. Finally, the hired dead man thought it through. At the same time, Dong-soo was chasing after the boss's ship. As soon as the ship left the dock, Dong-soo jumped onto the ships lined up nearby. Then he used all his strength to cling to the boss's moving ship. As soon as Dong-soo boarded the ship, the boss's henchmen attacked him. The two fought fiercely. After a while, Dong-soo gradually overpowered his enemies. After Dong-soo defeated the subordinates, the boss hit him hard on the head with a stick. He fell to the floor in pain, blood starting to flow. Facing the boss, Dong-soo was not afraid at all. He immediately pulled the anchor lever next to him. The rope immediately wrapped tightly around the boss's leg, then dragged him into the cold water. The boss floated on the sea, exactly like the picture in Shi-hyun's dream. The police immediately appeared and arrested all of the boss's subordinates. Dong-soo asked his colleagues if they had seen a girl, but his colleagues thought that Dong-soo had just seen a ghost. Dong-soo returned to the ship to look for the girl. He saw the flashlight the girl had dropped, then went to check every corner of the ship. When he reached the end of the corridor, Dong-soo saw an open room. He curiously went inside to check. At this moment, the girl appeared and knocked Dong-soo down. She quickly tried to escape before Dong-soo caught her. Dong-soo called his teammates to help. While running away, the girl dropped her bag, which contained a sketchbook. Dong-soo was surprised to see what was inside the notebook. How could she draw the boss's death so accurately? He then returned to the station to investigate the notebook. All the drawings in it were drawn by the girl. Dong-soo was attracted by a strange drawing, the content of which was a man in pain hugging a woman lying motionless. At this moment, a colleague came in and reported that the prosecutor wanted to talk to Dong-soo. The prosecutor was angry that Dong-soo acted on his own without permission. Dong-soo did not understand why he was being scolded when he had just arrested the boss. Dong-soo approached the prosecutor, then he raised his hand to touch her cheek. Just as Dong-soo was about to kiss her, the prosecutor kicked him hard in the leg, causing him pain. Dong-soo was upset that prosecutor kicked her fiancé, but the prosecutor had a good reason to be angry. Dong-soo gently soothed his girlfriend. She was manipulated by Dong-soo's sweet words. The prosecutor then happily showed off off their engagement ring. Looking at the design on the ring, Dong-soo was worried when he saw that it was similar to the picture he had picked up. He immediately returned to the room to investigate the mysterious girl further. Based on the pictures the girl drew, Dong-soo accessed the files of recent cases. It was exactly the same as those strange drawings. These were confidential information about the cases that were not released. How could the mysterious girl know everything so accurately? Dong-soo watched a slow-motion video of a car explosion. He clearly saw the mysterious girl also appear here. Dong-soo confirmed that the mysterious girl would appear at the scene before the cases occurred. To investigate the mysterious girl further, Dong-soo went to meet the witnesses. After Dong-soo got the girl's phone number, he immediately contacted her. Suddenly, the woman behind spoke up. Dong-soo now realized that the girl was the one who appeared in the case last night. Shihun came here to get the notebook back. Dong-soo guessed that she was a reporter, but Shihun did not answer him. Dong-soo took out a lighter in annoyance. He started to move the notebook closer to the lighter, causing Shihun to panic. Shihun said that this notebook was very important. Dong-soo asked her if she remembered the ring on the woman's hand in the picture. Dong-soo's fiancée was also wearing that ring. Why was Shihun able to draw that ring? For a moment, Shihun looked worried. She immediately called her superior. She reported that she had found the next victim. Dong-soo did not understand what she was talking about. Shihun took Dong-soo to his base. He was surprised to find that Shihun was also an officer. Just then, her superior appeared. Dong-soo stood at attention when he met the superior. His superior said that this was a special investigation team. They focused on preventing crimes from happening. Dong-soo said he wanted to know more about the drawings. Shihun said she usually drew them before the case happened. Dong-soo laughed at Shihun's words. Those things were so absurd. Shihun coldly replied. Wasn't the reason Dong-soo came there because he was afraid that the drawings would come true? One of Shihun's teammates immediately showed the most recent drawing. Usually, the drawings happened within 3 days. The superior wanted Dong-soo to cooperate with Shihun's team. Dong-soo hesitated a bit. He still couldn't believe that those things were true. However, in case something really happened, Dong-soo would stay by his fiancée's side. After Dong-soo left, Shihun had a feeling that Dong-soo would come back to find her. Dong-soo didn't tell his girlfriend about the drawing. He curiously asked his girlfriend if she was following any rape cases, but Dong-soo's girlfriend didn't have any such cases. Dong-soo asked his girlfriend if she could give him 2 days off. He wanted them to spend a few days together to reconnect, but Dong-soo's girlfriend was busy solving many unfinished cases. Dong-soo loudly said if his girlfriend went with him for 2 days, he would transfer back to an office job. Dong-soo's girlfriend became happy when he changed his mind. Now Shihun's team needed to solve the case at hand. The superior found the watch in the picture very strange. To his surprise, Shihun saw a man in the picture. After she traced the brand on the water bottle, Shihun guessed that the next victim was near that area. Meanwhile, at the roadside restaurant, the stranger was observing the woman who had just left. He secretly took a picture of the girl. At the same time, Shihun and her teammates were looking for a restaurant that looked like the picture. However, there were many restaurants in the area, so it was not easy for them to find a store that looked like the picture. They searched desperately. Time was running out, and they needed to quickly find the next victim. On the way back, the woman felt someone was following her, so she ran home as fast as she could. She carefully checked inside before entering. Suddenly, a man's back appeared. The woman screamed, but the person who appeared was her boyfriend. That night, Dong-soo was with his girlfriend. He wanted her to take off the ring so she could cook comfortably. At Dong-soo's insistence, his girlfriend took off the ring. Dong-soo then went to take out the trash, but he still couldn't feel at ease. Dong-soo immediately called Shihun, asking how things were. Until now, Shihun's team still hadn't found any new clues. Dong-soo confirmed again, had Shihun ever guessed wrong, but Shihun affirmed that she had never been wrong. At this moment, Shihun's teammate ran over. She had found the restaurant in the drawing. The owner recognized the woman in the picture. She was a regular customer at the shop. However, the owner did not know much about the woman. At the same time, in a small room, the stalker gave the picture to his boss. They were planning to do something bad to the girl. The woman did not know that she was in danger, and she was also pregnant. The next day, Shihun went to see Dong-soo. She said that she had identified the next victim, but Dong-soo did not care. What he needed to do was to be by his girlfriend's side. However, Shihun needed to tell Dong-soo something. Then she gave Dong-soo the sketchbook. She believed that everything happened for a reason. The man hugging his girlfriend could be Dong-soo. This made Dong-soo uncomfortable. Shihun came up with a solution. If Dong-soo wanted to save his girlfriend, then Dong-soo couldn't be near his girlfriend. The final decision was up to Dong-soo. Dong-soo hesitantly looked back at painting. After returning to the house, Dong-soo talked to his girlfriend. Dong-soo needed to go out immediately, but in the meantime, Dong-soo wanted his girlfriend to stay home. His girlfriend girlfriend immediately agreed to Dong-soo's request. Dong-soo then asked his co-worker to protect his girlfriend. After Dong-soo left, his girlfriend interrogated the co-worker, but he refused to say anything. Shi-hun was surprised that Dong-soo listened to her. Afterwards, Shi-hun and Dong-soo immediately drove to the next victim's house. Dong-soo asked Shi-hun what he was going to do. Shi-hun said she was going to take the victim away, but Dong-soo didn't think so. He wanted to ambush and capture the criminal. What Dong-soo said made sense. They had to capture the criminal before the bad luck passed on to someone else. After the two discussed their plan, they decided to go talk to the woman. The woman was surprised when the police came to see her. Dong-soo said that they had received a threatening letter, so the police came to investigate. After compiling the list of criminals on probation, Dong-soo stayed downstairs to guard, while Shi-hun stayed inside to protect the victim. Shi-hun accidentally saw a pregnancy test in the bathroom, so she went to congratulate the victim. Unexpectedly, this made the victim angry. Then the victim burst into tears. Shi-hun realized that this child belonged to someone else, not the victim's husband. Only then did Shi-hun learn the truth. This girl was not the next victim, or rather, this girl had been raped by the criminal before. Dong-soo felt frustrated because the time was almost up, but they had not found any clues. Meanwhile, the person under surveillance ordered his subordinate in charge of monitoring, and they arranged to meet at 6 o'clock in front of the victim's house. It turned out that the person they were targeting was the best friend of the previous rape victim. Today, the next victim was preparing a surprise for her husband, but her husband, Do-jin, had to meet someone before returning. The person Do-jin met was none other than Jin-ah, and Jin-ah was also Dong-soo's girlfriend. Do-jin met Jin-ah at a roadside cafe. In order to distract Dong-soo's subordinates, Jin-ah told them to go shopping for her. Jin-ah then drove out to meet Do-jin. It turned out that a few months ago, Jin-ah had come to meet Do-jin. She wanted to investigate the deserter case. A soldier in Do-jin's unit had died when he was shot by a deserter. The mistake was that the bulletproof vests issued were not up to standard. After investigating, Jin-ah found the whistleblower. That person was none other than Do-jin. Do-jin was surprised when Jin-ah discovered him. Now Jin-ah was investigating this case. She wanted Do-jin to come forward as a witness. Do-jin hesitated to come forward as a witness. Jin-ah convinced Do-jin to come forward as a witness. She assured Do-jin that she would always protect Do-jin. Because it was an important matter, Do-jin needed time to think it over. Now Do-jin took the initiative to contact her again, so Jin-ah went against Dong-soo's words. Meanwhile, Shi-hun was trying to convince the rape victim to come forward and report perpetrator. She wanted Do-jin to come forward as a witness. Dong-soo told Shi-hun not to waste his time, but Shi-hun was determined to do it his way. Finally, the rape victim agreed. That night, the rape victim said that there were two criminals. After sneaking into the house, they started raping the victim. The woman tried to remember the criminal's characteristics, but she was so scared that she couldn't remember anything because she was in a panic at the time. Dong-soo understood the woman's feelings, so he didn't want to question the woman anymore. However, the woman said that she bit the perpetrator's ear. After getting a clue, Shi-hun asked her colleagues to investigate the suspect. At this time, Dong-soo received news that his girlfriend had disappeared. He worriedly called Jin-ah immediately. Dong-soo shouted loudly, begging his girlfriend to come home. Jin-ah heard Dong-soo's urgent voice and agreed. On the way back, Jin-ah was almost hit by a truck. Jin-ah's phone was also broken. Not to mention, her tire had a big hole. At this time, Shi-hun's colleague found the suspicious person who had come to the hospital a few days ago. He was an employee of a garage. Dong-soo immediately drove to his workplace. When seeing the mechanic, Dong-soo grabbed him by the neck and threatened him. Luckily, Shi-hun stopped Dong-soo in time. It turned out that the criminal was not this man. He was just person who lent the criminal money to go to the doctor. After having the criminal's identity, Dong-soo was surprised to find that he was the criminal that Dong-soo had arrested. Dong-soo beat him up so badly that he would never forget it, and then sent him to jail. He had another accomplice. Dong-soo and Shi-hun needed to arrest these two criminals to ensure the victim's safety. At this time, Jin-ah encountered the criminal. As soon as he saw Jin-ah, the criminal grabbed a screwdriver and restrained her. Just then, Dong-soo appeared. Dong-soo was surprised to see his girlfriend's car here. He immediately pulled out his gun and chased after the criminal. The criminal threatened Dong-soo. If he didn't put the gun down, he would kill Jin-ah. As soon as Dong-soo threw the gun down, the criminal stabbed Jin-ah, then threw her into the water tank. Shi-hun told Dong-soo to go catch the criminal and she would save Jin-ah. The fear that painting would become reality appeared in Dong-soo's mind. He immediately jumped into the water tank to save his girlfriend. Shi-hun immediately chased after the criminal. As soon as the criminal saw Shi-hun, he held a weapon ready to attack her. Unexpectedly, Shi-hun sneaked behind him and attacked him. She kicked the weapon out of his hand, then threw him into the iron rack. The criminal fought back angrily. Shi-hun was so angry that she threw the criminal down. Then she kicked him straight in the face. The criminal fell to the ground in pain. He staggered to his feet. Suddenly, Shihan saw the pile of things above falling down. She quickly pushed the criminal aside. All the things above fell on Shihan. While Shihan was distracted, the criminal took a rock and hit her head. Meanwhile, the bespectacled criminal saw that it was past the appointed time and his accomplice had not arrived yet, so he decided to break into the victim's house. The victim screamed in fear. The bespectacled criminal did not hesitate to pick up the hammer next to him and then hit the victim many times. Just as he intended to escape, he was stopped by the police because of the blood on his body. Unfortunately, victim died. The broken watch was similar to what happened in Shihyun's painting. At the same time, Dong-soo saved his girlfriend. He was scared and hugged Jin-ah tightly. That night, when Do-jin returned home, he was surprised to see a large number of officers gathered in front of his house. Do-jin hurriedly ran forward to check. The police asked him who he was. Do-jin said this was his house. He worriedly asked the police what had happened. The police still held Do-jin and asked what his relationship was with the victim. Do-jin said she was his wife. He sensed something was wrong. He pushed the police away and rushed into the house, but it was too late. Do-jin's wife had been killed by the murderer at the police station. The murderer smiled as if he had done nothing wrong. The murderer blamed everything on Do-jin's wife. If she had listened to him, she wouldn't have died. At the same time, in the forensic room, Do-jin looked at his wife's body in pain. He couldn't believe it was true. He approached his wife's body. Tears began to roll down his cheeks. It was clear that just this morning, his wife had happily called him home because she had good news, but now she had left without saying goodbye. The next day, Do-jin returned to his old house. Everything in the house was still intact. He carefully opened the gift box his wife had prepared. Inside the box was a pregnancy test. It turned out that Do-jin's wife had just gotten pregnant. In just one day, he had lost both his wife and child. He blamed himself for coming home late. Do-jin vowed to take revenge on the person who killed his wife. He immediately went straight to the police station. When the guard wasn't paying attention, Do-jin calmly sneaked inside. Suddenly, a man said, Do-jin won't be able to kill him. Do-jin was surprised when the man knew his purpose. He told Do-jin that there were many policemen protecting the murderer now. Do-jin wondered who he was. The mysterious man said he could help Do-jin take revenge. In return, he wanted Do-jin to kill someone for him. That night, the mysterious man took Do-jin to a restaurant. The person who just entered the restaurant was the target that Do-jin needed to kill. Do-jin asked him what crime he committed. The mysterious man said that within 2 hours, the man who just entered the restaurant would drive and kill 2 people. This surprised Do-jin. The mysterious man said he could see the future. In a moment, the man who just entered the restaurant would drive drunk. Do-jin thought the mysterious man was crazy. Just as Do-jin was about to turn around and leave, the mysterious man told Do-jin to wait. Now Do-jin had nowhere to go. He also threatened to reveal Do-jin's plan to the police. This made Do-jin angry. Now Do-jin had no choice but to listen to the mysterious man. While waiting, a ball rolled in front of Do-jin. He gently returned the ball to the girl. At this moment, the fat man in the restaurant also came out. Because he was drunk, he called a driver service. Do-jin felt that he had been tricked and was about to leave. But Do-jin did not expect that the fat man would insult the driver after getting drunk. This made the driver upset and he left. The fat man angrily drove past Do-jin. Only then did Do-jin realize that what the mysterious man said was true. Do-jin hurriedly ran after him to stop him, but it was too late. When the car turned into the alley, Do-jin saw the ball rolling towards his feet. The panicked screams of the crowd attracted Do-jin. The fat man who drove the car hit the mother and daughter earlier. Do-jin was scared and couldn't believe his eyes. At this moment, a mysterious man appeared behind Do-jin. Do-jin asked who he was and why he could see the future. The mysterious man introduced himself as Tae-jun, and now he wanted to invite Do-jin to join his organization. Tae-jun said he was running an organization. The organization's goal was to stop crimes before they happened. Tae-jun said if Do-jin followed him, Do-jin could avenge his wife. At the same time, Shihyun woke up in the hospital. Her colleagues recounted what happened while Shihyun was unconscious. Shihyun felt guilty for not being able to stop the criminal's crimes. When she looked up at the wall clock, she asked her teammates to give her sketchbook. Suddenly she remembered the clothes Jin-ah was wearing. The clothes were different from the sketch. This proved that everything was not over yet. Jin-ah was in danger. At the same time, Dong-soo was hanging out with Jin-ah. Suddenly Dong-soo felt someone was following them. At that moment, a car rushed towards them. Dong-soo quickly pushed Jin-ah aside. The head-on collision of the car caused Dong-soo to fall to the ground. The criminal got out of the car. He knocked Jin-ah unconscious. Then he stole Dong-soo's Dong-su's gun. Shihyun was very worried because she could not contact Dong-su, so she left the hospital on her own. She needed to act quickly before Jin-ah was in danger. At this time, the criminal had handcuffed Dong-su. Dong-su endured the pain and broke his fingers to escape the handcuffs. At this time, Shihyun also arrived. Dong-su and Shihyun quickly investigated the car that the criminal was driving. Time was running out. After getting the location, Dong-su immediately set out to save Jin-ah. Meanwhile, at an abandoned warehouse, the criminal excitedly walked towards Jin-ah. At this moment, Do-jin appeared. The criminal was scared and pointed a gun at Do-jin's face. Do-jin angrily said that he came here to avenge his wife. The criminal laughed and admitted his crimes. Do-jin angrily said that the criminal would pay. Just before the criminal was about to pull the trigger, Do-jin grabbed his gun. Do-jin then angrily pointed the gun at the criminal. Jin-ah was surprised when Do-jin appeared here. Do-jin said that a mysterious man saw this place. This surprised Jin-ah. She begged Do-jin not to shoot the criminal. She would have him punished by law. But Do-jin coldly pulled the trigger, surprising Jin-ah. The criminal painfully held his wound. Do-jin had shot his lung. He only had 10 minutes left to live. Do-jin told the criminal to spend his last time repenting for the crimes he had committed. Jin-ah convinced Do-jin to hand over the gun to her, but Do-jin refused. Now Do-jin can't go to jail. He still has things to do to prevent further crimes from happening. Do-jin needs to find and kill the criminals before they commit them, even if they are innocent now. After thinking carefully, Do-jin chose his path. He will do what Tae-jun said. The innocent person Tae-jun ordered Do-jin to kill tonight was Jin-ah. When Dong-su arrived, he was surprised to see the criminal had been killed. Dong-su carefully checked inside the warehouse. He was heartbroken when he saw his girlfriend lying on the ground. Their engagement ring fell to the ground. Dong-su painfully hugged Jin-ah, but it was too late. Dong-su's painful cries made Do-jin feel guilty, but Do-jin decided to throw away his good side in order to save as many innocent people as possible. The police immediately sealed off the abandoned factory. Because of the heavy rain, the evidence was almost completely erased. The inspector concluded that during the fierce struggle between the two sides, Jin-ah shot and killed the criminal, and Jin-ah was also killed by the criminal. Dong-su was in pain and could not believe the truth. Suddenly, Dong-su saw Jin-ah's figure, and then Jin-ah disappeared forever. A new day began. Early in the morning, Tae-jun came to find Do-jin. Tae-jun needed Do-jin to do something for him, but Do-jin coldly refused. Do-jin would take the job after killing the murderer who killed his wife. Tae-jun promised to help Do-jin achieve his wish, but first, Do-jin needed to kill the person in the photo. Do-jin asked what crime this man would commit. Tae-jun said that if this man died, Do-jin would save hundreds of innocent lives. This time, the target was the director of the pharmaceutical company. He is currently producing a new vaccine, but rumors have it that the testers have suffered painful consequences. In order to manipulate the journalist, the director of the pharmaceutical company investigated the journalist's affair. The journalist was forced to stop reporting on the pharmaceutical company. After the director of the pharmaceutical company achieved his goal, he continued with his plan to produce the drug. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the doctor was approaching the patient's family. The grieving mother recounted the complications her son had after taking the new drug. The child's condition was very bad. After obtaining important information, the doctor tried to leave but was stopped by another person. He took the doctor to an abandoned room. Then he broke the doctor's finger. At this moment, the director of the pharmaceutical company appeared. It turned out that he already knew about the doctor stealing the drug development documents. The doctor said that the child who participated in the experiment died. That meant that there was a problem with the new drug, but the director didn't care. What he wanted was money and power. He threatened to take action against the doctor's family. The doctor was scared and said that he would cancel the press conference, then he would leave the company. But the director didn't care. He said that he only believed in dead people. The doctor was extremely scared when he heard this. The director gave him a deadline of 1 day. If the doctor didn't die, his family would be in trouble. They didn't expect that the entire conversation was recorded by Do-jin. At the same time, at the National Forensic Institute, Shihyun was carefully studying Jin-ah's autopsy report. The forensics found traces of gunpowder on Jin-ah's hand. Along with that was a paint thinner. Next, the forensics felt surprised when Shihyun asked the same question as Dong-su. At this time, Dong-su was standing at the crime scene. He wanted to find the real culprit behind Jin-ah's death. It turned out that Dong-su had discovered the unusual points in his girlfriend's death. On Shihyun's side, after carefully observing the photos at the crime scene, she speculated that, during the struggle, Jin-ah had scratched the real culprit's hand. That's why he used paint thinner to destroy the evidence. If everything was as Shihyun had speculated, there was a third person who killed the criminal, and Jin-ah. Suddenly, Shihyun felt dizzy. This was a sign of the next case. She immediately drew the pictures she saw. Unexpectedly, Officer Dong-su also appeared in the photo. Shihyun feared that after Dong-su found the real culprit who killed killed his girlfriend, Dong-soo would kill him to avenge Jin-ah. In order to find the murderer who killed Jin-ah, Dong-soo decided to resign. At this time, Shi-hun drew a picture of a man who was about to commit suicide. The countdown was only in minutes. Shi-hun's teammates discovered another picture. It was a famous painting that had recently been auctioned. It belonged to a doctor. After Shi-hun got the doctor's address, she immediately drove to his house. She quickly took the stairs to the doctor's house. She only had 5 minutes to save the victim. Just as she was about to break down the door, the doctor opened the door and walked out. The doctor was surprised that police were here. Shi-hun saw the rope that the doctor was hiding. He quickly snatched the rope and asked Shi-hun to leave. Shi-hun felt strange, so she checked the security camera. Just before the doctor was about to leave this world, a mysterious man appeared. Shi-hun recognized the man in the hat as the one Dong-soo killed in the painting. To save the man in the hat, Shi-hun needed to stop Dong-soo, but Dong-soo was now standing in front of Do-jin. Do-jin expressed his condolences to Dong-soo after Jin-ah's death. Dong-soo said he wanted to ask Do-jin a few questions about Jin-ah's case, but Do-jin couldn't answer this because Jin-ah was investigating corruption in the Korean military, so there were many people involved. Dong-soo continued to ask who benefited the most after Jin-ah's death, but Do-jin didn't know either. Before leaving, Dong-soo exchanged phone numbers with Do-jin. When Do-jin remembered something, Dong-soo hopes that he will contact him. Since his girlfriend passed away, Dong-soo has only eaten fast food. He always thinks about Jin-ah. Dong-soo was eating when 2 officers appeared. They then immediately took Dong-soo back to the police station. Dong-soo was upset that the superiors had arrested him. The superior told Dong-soo to wait 3 more days. This made Dong-soo suspicious. 3 days was the deadline for the sketches. Dong-soo asked the superior if this had anything to do with Jin-ah's murderer, but the superior did not answer. Dong-soo was taken to the detention room, but before being locked up, Dong-soo asked to go to the bathroom. He then took the opportunity to knock out the officer. The superior informed Shi-hyun that Dong-soo had escaped. He ordered Shi-hyun to find Dong-soo. Suddenly, Shi-hyun saw a billboard. It was the same billboard that appeared in the painting. Based on the location, Shi-hyun knew where Dong-soo was hiding. That place was their secret base. She saw him holding the sketches. Dong-soo loudly asked how long she was going to hide it from him. Shi-hyun told Dong-soo to leave this matter to her, but Dong-soo did not agree. Since his girlfriend died, Dong-soo's life was over. Shi-hyun immediately pulled out his gun to warn. However, Dong-soo was not afraid at all, because Shi-hyun's sketches were always correct, so Dong-soo would find and kill the real culprit. Shi-hyun immediately attacked Dong-soo. Dong-soo warned that Shi-hyun would get hurt. Shi-hyun was provoked and kicked Dong-soo straight in the stomach, but then Shi-hyun was knocked to the ground by Dong-soo. Taking advantage of Dong-soo's lack of vigilance, Shi-hyun handcuffed him to a chair. After controlling Dong-soo, Shi-hyun quickly looked for the gun, but it was taken away by Dong-soo. Dong-soo threatened Shi-hyun to unlock the handcuffs, but Shi-hyun didn't believe that Dong-soo would dare shoot her. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. Shi-hyun was surprised at what Dong-soo dared to do. He broke the handcuffs with a bullet. Then Dong-soo knocked Shi-hyun unconscious and escaped. Shi-hyun immediately reported this to the superiors. Shi-hyun guessed that Dong-soo would go to the doctor's house. Meanwhile, at his home, Do-jin was planning to approach his prey. The director of the pharmaceutical company always has a bodyguard closely following him. Therefore, Do-jin needs to take care of the bodyguard first. Tae-jun ordered Do-jin to kill the target. Surprisingly, Do-jin said that Dong-soo had come to find him today. However, Dong-soo did not suspect Do-jin at all. This made Do-jin feel guilty. Tae-jun said that there was only one way to make Do-jin forget his guilt. That was for Do-jin to save more people. At the same time, the doctor was preparing to go out. Suddenly, Dong-soo appeared before him. The two then left parking lot. Dong-soo tied the doctor up in an abandoned room. The doctor was scared when he saw Dong-soo. Dong-soo took out the photo and asked what the doctor said to the hooded man, but the doctor didn't say anything. Dong-soo angrily smashed the objects behind him. He gave the doctor a choice to tell the truth or die. The doctor fearfully recounted his conversation with the hooded man. He broke into the doctor's house. The hooded man questioned the doctor about the new drug. The doctor was surprised when the hooded man knew the truth. The doctor said that more than 80% of the children who took the drug showed signs of improvement, but just a few months ago, the children who participated in the trial died. The hooded man said that the doctor didn't need to die. He needed to live to expose the truth about the drug. As for the drug company director, let the hooded man handle it. After getting the important information, Dong-soo followed the director. Meanwhile, Shi-hyun broke into the doctor's house. When looking out the window, Shi-hyun recognized a clue in the sketch. It was a bridge over the river. It led to an isolated construction site. Then Shi-hyun went to the empty room. She found the doctor being held captive, but Shi-hyun did not see Dong-soo anywhere. At the same time, the director had already arrived at the villa. He had happily waved to his lover. He did not expect that Dojin was also hiding inside. Dojin was waiting for the director to enter. When the director saw his mistress being knocked out, he was immediately scared and ran away. But he was stopped by Dojin. Dojin took out a stick from his pocket and knocked the director down. The director painfully asked who Dojin was. Dojin said he came here for the new medicine. When he heard about the scandal of the medicine, the director worriedly asked Dojin what he needed. If Dojin would just let him go, he would give him $1 million. But Dojin did not care. Now the director would have to die. Just as Dojin was about to kill the director, Dong-su appeared behind him. Dong-su held a gun and threatened the hooded man. He made the hooded man pull up his sleeve. When he saw the wound on the hooded man's hand, Dong-su was sure that he was the one who killed his girlfriend. At this moment, the hooded man took off his hood to reveal his identity. Dong-su was surprised that the murderer was Dojin. Dojin told Dong-su to let him kill the director first and then talk later. But Dong-su could not keep calm. He asked why Dojin killed Jin-ah. Dojin did not justify his actions. The director took advantage of the moment when the two faced each other to quickly escape. In just a second, when Dong-su lost focus, Dojin jumped on him and snatched his gun. A loud gunshot rang out. Dong-su slowly stood up. He saw Dojin lying in a pool of blood, just like the sketch. But when Dong-su looked closely, it was just a red paint can. Dojin immediately threw away the gun. Then he jumped up and fought directly with Dong-su. Dong-su immediately counterattacked strongly, but Dojin, being a professional commando, was quick to dodge Dong-su's attacks. Then Dojin locked Dong-su's neck. Dong-su struggled to get away. The two of them once again rushed at each other, but Dong-su was once again knocked to the floor. Fortunately, Dong-su quickly regained his posture. He rushed forward to hug Dojin tightly, but Dojin jumped up and threw a knee at Dong-su's face. Blood began to flow down Dong-su's face, but he did not stop. Dong-su continued to rush into battle with the enemy who had killed the person he loved. However, Dong-su was hit and fell to the ground. Dojin coldly picked up the gun on the ground. Dong-su's appearance tonight was predicted by Taejun. Taejun told Dojin to kill Dong-su, but Dojin could not do that. He decided to spare Dong-su. Before Dojin left, Dong-su asked why Dojin killed Jin-ah, but Dojin did not answer. At this moment, Shihan arrived at the villa. She carefully walked inside. The messy room was the mark of the battle. Dong-su sat down in a corner. He said that Shihan's sketch was not wrong. Shihan worriedly asked Dong-su. He painfully said that the person who killed Jin-ah was right in front of him, but Dong-su could not do anything to him. Dong-su handed the gun to Shihyun, but he did not reveal Dojin's identity. Before leaving, Dong-su warned Shihyun not to care about his business. Dojin also suffered many injuries after the battle. Taejun asked why Dojin did not kill Dong-su, but Dojin did not know why he did so. Taejun threw Dojin a file related to Dong-su. Dong-su was the one who took on the investigation of the criminal who murdered Dojin's wife. But instead of arresting the criminal, Dong-su chose to jump in to save Jin-ah. This sentence made Dojin's anger reach its peak. The next time they met, Dojin would definitely not forgive Dong-su. Taejun told Dojin to move somewhere else. Dojin only took his wife's diary and then left the house. Taejun immediately turned on the gas valve. Very quickly, Dojin's house exploded. At this time, Dong-su passed by Dojin's house. He was surprised when the house had been engulfed in flames. The next day, Shihyun went to see the director. He said he couldn't remember what had happened. Shihyun asked the director if he could think of anyone who could have been the culprit, but the director said that he had done nothing wrong. Shihyun laughed at this hypocrite. She immediately mentioned that his new medicine had had serious problems and that he had threatened the doctor. The director angrily told Shihyun to get out. Before leaving, Shihyun warned that she would put him in jail one day. Dong-su letting the culprit escape had proven that he was very dangerous. However, Shihyun had no information about him. The superior said to issue a warrant for Dong-su's arrest. Dong-su now knew the identity of the culprit. If Dong-su was allowed to go free, he would kill someone. At that time, someone called to meet with Superior Jung-so. That person was Taejun. It turned out that Taejun was from the internal investigation team. Jung-sok and Taejun had been teammates, but now they were on two different sides. Taejun knew that Jung-sok was cooperating with Shihyun. Did Jung-sok still think that he could save his daughter? Jung-sok was upset when Taejun reminded him of that pain. Taejun warned Jung-sok not to protect Dong-su anymore. Otherwise, Jung-sok would be punished. While Jung-sok was away, Shihyun fell into a special state. Her body sketched what she saw in the future. Her teammates were scared when they saw Shihyun's sketch, so she told Jung-sok to come back. Shihyun's sketch was very different this time. She would be the next victim. Shihyun calmly awaited her end. Everyone started analyzing the paintings one by one. It seemed like a prison break was going to happen. Shihyun told everyone to investigate as usual. This made Jung-sok unhappy. This time, Shihyun would be the next victim, so Jung-sok didn't want Shihyun to take the risk. Facing death, no matter how hard, Shihyun tried to act strong. She was still a little scared, so Shihyun went to see her older brother. The two of them went for a walk together. The older brother realized that Shihyun had something on his mind. The older brother comforted her. It wasn't Shihyun's fault. It turned out that when Shihyun was little, she used to draw scenes of her parents dying. This time, Shihyun came here to see her older brother one last time. Shihyun never revealed to her brother that she would be the next victim. Feeling that something was wrong with Shihyun, the brother called Jung-suk, but Jung-suk couldn't reveal the truth. He wanted to respect Shihyun. At this time, the director also ordered someone to investigate information about the two people who attacked him the day before. After getting the information, he laughed when he learned that they were enemies. Now Do-jin was the one the director needed to eliminate. He ordered the bodyguards to find and kill Do-jin. Meanwhile, Dong-soo was also investigating Do-jin's true identity. Do-jin used to be a special forces soldier. He also received a prestigious military medal. Suddenly, a colleague said that the director was looking for Dong-soo. Dong-soo then went to see the director. The director said that he had investigated Do-jin. Therefore, he would provide the information he had to Dong-soo. Dong-soo was wary of what the director said. He did not want to cooperate with this bastard. Dong-soo's attitude made the director uncomfortable. He ordered the bodyguards to block Dong-soo's way, but Dong-soo threatened the director back. Seeing that, the director told the bodyguards to move to plan B. Dong-soo then followed the bodyguard. At the same time, in the prison cell, Bo-gum visited his imprisoned brother. It turned out that Bo-gum was the older brother of the bespectacled criminal. The bespectacled criminal was devastated when he was not released, but Bo-gum promised to find a way to save him. After Bo-gum went out, the director's bodyguard approached Bo-gum. He said he had a way to get Bo-gum's younger brother out. In return, he wanted Bo-gum to help him with something. In order to save his brother, Bo-gum agreed to cooperate with the director's bodyguard. Bo-gum ordered his men to gather all his subordinates. Dong-soo saw the whole thing. Dong-soo immediately called his colleagues to find information about Bo-gum. Now Dong-soo understood everything. If Dong-soo had chosen to catch the criminal at that time, then perhaps Do-jin's wife would not have died. After learning the reason why Do-jin became evil, Dong-soo visited Do-jin's wife's grave. From afar, Do-jin carefully observed Dong-soo's every move. After leaving the cemetery, Dong-soo made an appointment to meet Shihyun. Dong-soo asked Shihyun, "Do you think Dong-soo did something wrong?" Shihyun understood what Dong-soo meant. Shihyun told Dong-soo not to put all the blame on him. Dong-soo did nothing wrong. As soon as Dong-soo left, he accidentally bumped into a passerby. When he bent down to pick up something for the passerby, he found himself surrounded by a crowd of people. At that moment, the passerby handcuffed Dong-soo. Dong-soo quickly knocked the passerby unconscious. Dong-soo then turned around and ran away. It turned out that the police were lying in ambush, wanting to arrest Dong-soo. After that, the police immediately rushed to control Dong-soo. Dong-soo was overpowered by the overwhelming number of police. At this moment, Tae-jun appeared. He introduced himself as captain of the internal investigation team. After Dong-soo was arrested, Shihyun returned to report to Jung-suk. Jung-suk said that the investigation team found out that Dong-soo had kidnapped the doctor, so they arrested Dong-soo for investigation. Tae-jun personally interrogated Dong-soo. He threatened to put Dong-soo in prison for 5 years. But Dong-soo was not afraid. Dong-soo said that he still had things to take care of, so he would get out soon. Hearing this, Tae-jun just smirked at Dong-soo. Today was the day the bespectacled criminal changed prisons. Shihyun also knew that there was something fishy about this. She knew that a prisoner robbery was about to take place, so she immediately set off. At this time, 2 black cars were following the prisoner transport vehicle. Suddenly, the bespectacled criminal showed strange signs. The prison guard quickly asked to stop the car for inspection. When the car stopped, a group of masked men rushed forward to suppress the prison guard. Then they rescued the bespectacled criminal. At this moment, Shihyun appeared. She confronted the thugs alone. Shihyun immediately pulled out her gun. The thugs laughed when they thought Shihyun didn't dare to shoot. Immediately, 2 bullets were fired. The thugs began to fear Shihyun. Bo-gum took the prison guard hostage. While Shihyun was hesitating, another thug rushed forward. Shihyun quickly knocked the thug down, but Bo-gum continued to his countdown. Shihyun realized that the prison guard was the person in the drawing, so she decided to surrender. Bo-gum knocked down the prison guard. Then he picked up the gun and threatened Shihyun. He coldly shot Shihyun in the leg. Shihyun fell to the ground in pain. Then Bo-gum knocked Shihyun out. He also ordered his men to take Shihyun away. When Jung-suk arrived at the scene, the thugs had escaped. He angrily returned to the base. Jung-suk did not know where Shihyun was, and there were only 2 days left, so Jung-suk asked for help from Shihyun's brother. When Sonho heard that Shihyun's sister had been taken away, he rushed to Jung-suk's secret base. Jung-suk showed Sonho the sketch. Sonho was furious when Jung-suk learned that the next victim was Shihyun. Why did Jung-suk still send Shihyun to to the scene. Jung Suk remained silent and did not answer. Son Ho became more and more furious. However, Son Ho finally restrained himself. The important thing now was to save Shi-hyun. Son Ho asked what he could do for Jung Suk. Jung Suk needed someone else's help. Jung Suk then went to see Dong Soo. He showed Dong Soo a drawing of Shi-hyun as the next victim. Dong Soo was surprised that Shi-hyun had been arrested. At that point, Jung Suk needed Dong Soo to help him find Shi-hyun. Through the documents and information Jung Suk provided, Dong Soo gradually saw the whole picture. Dong Soo stated his request. When Dong Soo saved Shi-hyun, he didn't want anyone to interfere in his work. However, Jung Suk refused. After all, Jung Suk was an officer. Dong Soo challenged Jung Suk. Could Jung Suk stop him? Jung Suk knew which priority to take. In the end, Jung Suk gave in. Dong Soo asked how Jung Suk could release him now. Meanwhile, Son Ho went to see the doctor. The doctor was surprised that a prosecutor had come to visit him. Son Ho said that he had come there to ask the doctor for help. Son Ho needed the doctor to change his testimony to release Dong Soo. Son Ho also found out the connection between the doctor and the drug company director. The doctor didn't cooperate. Son Ho had no choice but to investigate everything. The doctor was scared and agreed to cooperate with Son Ho. After getting the doctor's testimony, the police were forced to release Dong Soo. Dong Soo wondered who the man who had helped him was. Jung Suk said that he was Shi-hyun's older brother. After Dong Soo was released, Son Ho asked Dong Soo to save Shi-hyun. This was also what Dong Soo wanted to do. The two sides now had the same goal. Son Ho decided to cooperate with Dong Soo and Jung Suk until Shi-hyun was saved. Dong Soo studied Shi-hyun's drawings. Unexpectedly, Dong Soo said that they would not be able to save Shi-hyun. Shi-hyun's drawings had never been wrong. Why had Shi-hyun still gone to the scene? Son Ho didn't understand what Dong Soo said. Dong Soo explained further. It seemed that Shi-hyun thought that it would be okay even if she died. Up until now, Shi-hyun had been under a lot of pressure from seeing the future. Dong Soo's words were not wrong, but what needed to be done now was to find Shi-hyun. They couldn't give up until the last moment. Son Ho went to his younger sister's desk. There was a picture of the two of them together, along with a red bracelet. Dong Soo was still studying the picture Shi-hyun drew, but he still didn't have any more clues. Suddenly, Dong Soo saw a guy with a bun. He was the thug Bo Gum, who was also the brother of the bespectacled criminal. Dong Soo immediately ran outside. He went to the fountain in the picture. At this point, Dong Soo reported everything to his teammates. He would not arrest Bo Gum. Instead, he would follow Bo Gum to find out where Bo Gum was keeping Shi-hyun. However, Dong Soo needed Son Ho's approval, so knew that this was the only option. Therefore, Son Ho put all his trust in Dong Soo. Just like what happened in the picture, Bo Gum appeared. Dong Soo quickly followed him to a parking lot. Then, Dong Soo deliberately blocked Bo Gum's car. Bo Gum was angry that someone dared to act in front of him. Bo Gum thought Dong Soo was a scapegoat, so Bo Gum threw money and got in his car and left. Bo Gum did not know that Dong Soo had installed his phone in Bo Gum's car. After that, Dong Soo got in his car and followed Bo Gum. On Shi-hyun's side, she dreamed of her childhood past. Since she was little, Shi-hyun had had the ability to see the future. Everything would happen just like Shi-hyun's painting. Shi-hyun only told her best friend this secret because her best friend had a bracelet that looked like Shi-hyun's drawing. The best friend was scared because she thought she was going to die. But the person in Shi-hyun's drawing was another classmate. So Shi-hyun and her best friend went to their classmate's house to ask. The door was unlocked. Shi-hyun and her best friend went inside. The house reeked of alcohol. They tried calling their classmate, but no one answered. Just as they were about to leave, they heard their classmate's voice again. The classmate had been beaten and locked in the bathroom. Shi-hyun quickly got her some water to drink, but the classmate couldn't take it anymore. The classmate breathed her last. At that moment, the classmate's father returned. Shi-hyun and her best friend quickly hid in the closet. The drunk father was scared when he saw his daughter dead. Suddenly, he heard a noise in the closet. He stood up and walked towards where Shi-hyun and her best friend were hiding. He was furious when two kids discovered his secret. He quickly went to get the knife on the table. As soon as he turned his back, Shi-hyun and her best friend ran into the room and locked the door. The drunk man tried to break the lock. Shi-hyun and the best friend tried to escape through the window. Shi-hyun was scared when she saw the same scene as painting. Her best friend tried to jump over to cheer her up. After Shi-hyun got some motivation from her friend, she jumped to the other side. At that moment, the drunk man appeared. He grabbed Shi-hyun's best friend's leg. She lost her balance and fell down. Shi-hyun was in pain when everything in the painting came true. The bracelet was the last keepsake of her best friend. Shi-hyun's best friend was also Jung Suk's daughter. At that moment, Shi-hyun woke up. She tried to struggle free, but her hands were tied tightly. Bo Gum's subordinates asked how to deal with Shi-hyun. Bo Gum said they needed to use Shi-hyun and then cover up the clues. The bespectacled criminal took advantage of Bo Gum's absence to try to approach Shi-hyun, but he he was stopped by Bogum's subordinate. The bespectacled criminal threatened to report the subordinate who bullied him to Bogum. The subordinate finally gave in. The bespectacled criminal happily ran upstairs. Shihyun was trying to cut the rope when the bespectacled criminal appeared. He angrily slapped Shihyun. This angered Shihyun. Shihyun immediately headbutted him, causing his glasses to fall off. Shihyun then quickly broke his glasses. The bespectacled criminal angrily kicked Shihyun in the stomach. Shihyun painfully begged for his life. The bespectacled criminal happily grabbed Shihyun's hair. At this moment, Shihyun cut the rope. She then threw the bespectacled criminal to the ground. He angrily charged at Shihyun. His attack was easily avoided by Shihyun. She then locked the bespectacled criminal, causing him to faint. Shihyun ran out in pain. Because of her leg injury, she could not fight back against the subordinate. Shihyun decided to distract them. She then hid in a corner of the closet and waited. Meanwhile, Do-jin was ready to act. Do-jin was about to meet the man who had killed his wife. However, Tae-jun said that there was a change. After Do-jin took revenge, he needed Do-jin to do a few more things for him. Do-jin was confused why things had become so complicated. Tae-jun said that he just needed Do-jin to trust him completely. He then gave Do-jin a bag. Do-jin asked if the future could be changed that easily. Tae-jun repeated it again. Do-jin just needed to do as he said. At the same time, Bo-gum was filling up the gas tank. He accidentally discovered that someone had planted a phone under the car. Knowing that he was being followed, Bo-gum ordered his subordinate to take his younger brother away first. The subordinate reported that Shihyun had escaped. This made Bo-gum angry. Suddenly, he felt that something was wrong. Shihyun couldn't have left with her injured leg. She must be hiding somewhere. Bo-gum went to the safe. Inside was Shihyun. Bo-gum angrily dragged Shihyun out. As soon as she tried to resist, Bo-gum's subordinate hit her hard. Bo-gum ordered Shihyun to be killed. As soon as Shihyun was in danger of her life, Dong-soo rushed in to save her. The angry subordinates surrounded him. Bo-gum recognized Dong-soo as the person he had just met. Dong-soo said that no one could escape today. Bo-gum ordered his men to rush forward. Dong-soo locked his arms, then punched one of them straight in the face. He easily knocked down the crowd. The bespectacled criminal rushed in with a stick and tried to sneak attack Dong-soo, but he was counterattacked by Dong-soo. Then the bespectacled criminal was captured. Bo-gum saw his younger brother being captured, so he used Shihyun as a hostage. He pointed a gun at Shihyun's head and said that if Dong-soo didn't release Bo-gum's brother, Bo-gum would kill Shihyun. Suddenly, an idea popped into Shihyun's head. She reminded Dong-soo of her sketch. Shihyun wouldn't die here. Bo-gum was worried when Shihyun held the gun tightly. Bo-gum angrily pulled the trigger, but there were no bullets in the gun. Shihyun immediately pushed Bo-gum towards Dong-soo. Dong-soo jumped up and kicked Bo-gum away. After Dong-soo defeated Bo-gum, he went to Shihyun's side. Dong-soo was surprised by Shihyun's recklessness. At this moment, the bespectacled criminal ran away. Dong-soo angrily chased after him, leaving Shihyun with a gun in his hand. Shihyun's sketches were never wrong. The bespectacled criminal ran out in fear, but he was stopped by Do-jin. Do-jin angrily pointed the gun at the bespectacled criminal's face. Dong-soo saw the danger, so he ran down to stop him. At this time, Do-jin angrily asked the bespectacled criminal if he remembered Do-jin's wife. Now the bespectacled criminal knew that the person he killed was Do-jin's wife. Seeing that the bespectacled criminal was still calm and unrepentant, Do-jin immediately shot him in the leg. He screamed in pain, then collapsed. Dong-soo tried to rush in to stop him, but Do-jin used his gun to control Dong-soo. Do-jin then shot the bespectacled criminal to death. Do-jin told Dong-soo to understand him. They both had reasons to seek revenge. Do-jin said he had forgiven Dong-soo once. If they met again, Do-jin would kill Dong-soo. On the second floor, Shihyun was carefully observing the situation. She heard the entire conversation between Do-jin and Dong-soo. Dong-soo asked if Do-jin killed Jin-ah to get revenge on Dong-soo. Do-jin said he did it because of the law of karma. At this time, Dong-soo signaled Shihyun to push the crate down. Do-jin and Dong-soo quickly avoided the falling crate. Taking advantage of Do-jin's moment of being off guard, Dong-soo rushed forward and kicked the gun out of Do-jin's hand. The two immediately rushed at each other and fought fiercely. Do-jin hit Dong-soo's neck. Dong-soo responded with a kick. Dong-soo had the advantage of flexible movement speed. He dodged the attacks and then launched precise counterattacks. Do-jin used strength as a weapon. Each of his blows seemed to crush his opponent. Today was the day one of them would die. Suddenly a car rushed in. The men in black continuously fired at them. Do-jin was shot by them and knocked out. As soon as the men weren't paying attention, Dong-soo picked up the gun that fell on the side of the road. He wanted to catch those men but couldn't. A man in black shot Dong-soo in the arm. After the men in black left, Shihyun approached Dong-soo and asked if Do-jin was the real culprit. However, Dong-soo didn't answer. Shihyun thanked Dong-soo for saving her. At that moment, the police appeared. Everyone was very worried about Shihyun. Sonho breathed a sigh of relief. Then Sonho bowed his head in thanks. Sonho asked Shihyun to come stay with him for the next 2 days. but Shihyun refused. She knew that the sketches were never wrong. Sonho did not stop Shihyun anymore. In return, Sonho would stay by Shihyun's side until the case was over. Only then did Dong-soo tell Jung-suk the truth. The real culprit was Do-jin. From what Dong-soo said, it was possible that the drug company director had kidnapped Do-jin. Jung-suk asked why Dong-soo wanted to save Do-jin. It was obvious that Dong-soo's goal was to eliminate Do-jin, but Dong-soo avoided the question. Dong-soo needed Shihyun's help to find out who kidnapped Do-jin. However, Jung-suk refused. Dong-soo didn't give up. He continued to persuade Jung-soo. Now only Dong-soo was capable of fighting. In the end, Jung-suk agreed to Dong-soo's request. In return, Jung-suk would put Dong-soo in jail if Dong-soo went too far. Dong-soo looked at Bo-gum. He wanted to start the investigation from him first. Dong-soo personally went to question Bo-gum. As soon as seeing Dong-soo, Bo-gum said that he would kill Dong-soo at all costs. Dong-soo said that he was not the one who killed Bo-gum's younger brother. The real culprit was Do-jin. Bo-gum laughed at those words. Dong-soo asked Bo-gum, who revealed the story about the prisoner van transporting the bespectacled criminal. Bo-gum had no reason to tell Dong-soo. Dong-soo made a regretful face. Dong-soo said that Bo-gum was used by the director. The director's target was Do-jin. Bo-gum was surprised that Dong-soo knew so much about the person who hired him. Only then did Bo-gum realize that he was being used. Dong-soo walked over and squeezed Bo-gum's shoulder. Dong-soo's plan to lure the fish into the bait was successful. Only then did Bo-gum realize that he had been tricked. Dong-soo then went to see the director. He also guessed Dong-soo's purpose in coming here. The director said that the bodyguard had escaped. Dong-soo walked up to the director. Dong-soo asked the director where the bodyguard was hiding. The director warned Dong-soo. Now he had what Dong-soo wanted. Dong-soo understood what the director meant. Before leaving, Dong-soo warned him to be careful. Then Dong-soo returned to the base. Now there were only 2 sketches left. Dong-soo noticed something strange in the picture. However, Dong-soo did not tell anyone. Dong-soo's attitude angered Sonho. Seeing the tense atmosphere, Shihyun slammed the book on the table. Dong-soo and Sonho stopped when they saw this. Shihyun left angrily. When she returned, everyone in the office had disappeared. Suddenly, the lights came on. Everyone threw a surprise birthday party for Shihyun. She laughed as they had planned it all in advance. Now there were only 9 hours left until the painting expired. Looking at Shihyun reminded Jung-suk of his daughter. Shihyun brought a cake to the rooftop for Jung-suk. Today was also Jung-suk's daughter's birthday. Shihyun sadly asked Jung-suk if he blamed her. Jung-suk never blamed Shihyun for this. Shihyun cried when she heard these words. Jung-suk told Shihyun to live happily. Dong-soo heard the whole story. At that moment, the director sent the photo. He was currently holding Do-jin. Dong-soo then went to see the director. After carefully checking Dong-soo's men, the director agreed to the deal. What the director wanted was the new medicine documents that the doctor had. As long as the documents were in the director's hands, he would hand over Do-jin. Dong-soo would find the documents and hand them over to the director. The 2 sides reached an agreement. Dong-soo then returned to the base. He spoke to Jung-soo privately. He apologized for hearing about Jung-soo and Shihyun. Dong-soo asked how Jung-soo could overcome that pain, but Jung-soo had never overcome it. Dong-soo asked what if the person who killed Jung-suk's daughter was still alive. Jung-soo was silent for a moment. Then he said that he was an officer, so he would do what an officer should do. Dong-soo finally understood Jung-suk's feelings. He had made his own decision. That night, the director had someone change the medicine in the doctor's bottle. The doctor had no idea that the medicine had been changed, so he drank it without hesitation. The director wanted to put all the blame on Dong-soo. When the doctor returned home, he was surprised to find Dong-soo following him. Dong-soo threatened the doctor to hand over the director's company's medicine documents. The doctor asked if the director sent Dong-soo. Dong-soo assured him that he would not touch a single hair of the doctor. At that moment, the doctor had a heart attack and died. Dong-soo began to panic when things went too far. After getting the documents, Dong-soo brought them to the director. The director asked what happened. He still acted innocent when he heard that the doctor had died. The director accused Dong-soo of being the murderer, but now Dong-soo did not care about this anymore. He asked where Do-jin was. The director poured Dong-soo a glass of water. Then he gave Dong-soo the file. Inside were photos of Dong-soo and the doctor. The director threatened that he would put all the blame on Dong-soo. Dong-soo angrily rushed in front of the director. At that moment, the drug started to take effect. Dong-soo collapsed to the ground in pain. The director laughed and told his plan. Then he ordered his subordinates to take Dong-soo away. Meanwhile, Shihyun had arrived at the doctor's house. She was surprised to see the doctor lying on the ground, but it was all just an act that Dong-soo created. He wanted to take advantage of the director's plan to deceive him. The medicine bottle that Shihyun drew was the doctor's. Just as the doctor was about to take the medicine, Sonho came to stop the doctor. Only when the director was most careless would he take Dong-soo to Do-jin's place. Then the whole team team immediately set off based on the locator device. Shihan was in charge of taking the doctor back to the base, but everything went too smoothly. This made Sonho worried. The director suddenly received a phone call. Taejun said that the director was being tricked. The police were now following the director. He looked angrily at Dong-soo. He then checked Dong-soo's person. Sure enough, he found a tracking device in Dong-soo's pocket. Then he knocked Dong-soo out. The director immediately changed his plan. He ordered Do-jin to be taken to the riverside. At the same time at the base, Shihan felt something unusual about the moon. It was different from the sketch, or rather, the sketch was a reflection on the water. His teammates immediately scanned the satellite image. Then they discovered an abandoned house. Shihan immediately called Seonho, but Sonho said that Dong-soo's route had changed. Shihan said that the direction was wrong. The location of the painting should be in the opposite direction. It turned out that the director had thrown the tracking device into another car. Time was running out. Shihan was worried about Dong-soo and prepared to go to the rescue. Despite his teammates' objections, Shihan didn't care. Shihan couldn't just stand by and watch someone die because of him. After Sonho learned that Shihan had set off for the crime scene, Sonho called Shihan. Knowing that he couldn't stop his younger sister, Sonho suggested that Shihan wait for the comrades to come to his rescue. But Shihan knew that they couldn't get there that quickly. Shihan asked Sonho to convey her sincere thanks to Jung-soo. Then she hung up. Meanwhile, Dong-soo was taken to Do-jin's detention center. The director laughed sarcastically at the relationship between the two. He wanted to see a bloody revenge battle. The director ordered his subordinates to give him weapons. He then proceeded to provoke Dong-soo and Do-jin. Seeing that the two remained calm, the director became annoyed. Do-jin immediately made sarcastic remarks about the director. He angrily pointed the gun at Do-jin's head. Just as he was about to pull the trigger, Do-jin told the director to wait. The director laughed when Do-jin begged for his life again. Do-jin said that he had left a gift in the wooden cabinet that the director was delighted with. The director was alert and sent someone to check. When his subordinates found the bag, the director shouted loudly who had left it there, but no one answered. Do-jin said that someone knew about this in advance. The director doubted Do-jin's words because he had only brought Do-jin here an hour ago. After the subordinate opened the bag, he was scared to see a bomb inside with a countdown timer. The big explosion blew everyone away. Do-jin, knowing in advance, avoided it. Thanks to the explosion, Do-jin escaped from the chains. Do-jin stood up and walked towards the director. The subordinate rushed to attack Do-jin, but was easily defeated by Do-jin. The director crawled back in fear and begged for mercy. He deliberately grabbed the knife on the ground. As soon as Do-jin got close, the director rushed forward and stabbed Do-jin. But Do-jin was faster than the director. He blocked the unexpected stab. Do-jin then knocked down the director. Just as Do-jin was about to kill the director, Dong-soo stepped forward to stop him. The two of them once again rushed into a fight. At this moment, Shihan appeared. She ordered the two of them to stop, but Dong-soo did not listen. He rushed forward and punched Do-jin straight in the face. Shihan was forced to fire a warning shot to stop Dong-soo. At this moment, the director rushed forward. He took a knife and stabbed Shihan in the arm. The slash caused the gun in Shihan's hand to fall. Meanwhile, Dong-soo was still fighting Do-jin. As soon as the gun fell to Dong-soo, he fired it at Do-jin. However, Do-jin had already escaped. Dong-soo turned back to look at Shihan. He hesitated whether to save Shihan or chase after Do-jin. In the end, Dong-soo chose to leave Shihan alone. Shihan struggled fiercely with the director. She tried to hold on to his knife. Then she kicked the director in the face, making him dizzy. Shihan looked around. This was where she would die. While Shihan was hesitating, the director rushed to attack her. Shihan regained her focus. She twisted the director's arm. Then she kicked the knife out of his hand. The director painfully used all his strength to knock Shihan down. Then he pulled out a stick and hit her hard on the leg. Shihan hugged her leg and fell to the ground. The director coldly held Shihan. Shihan tried to reach for a wooden stick. She stabbed the director hard in the side. The director painfully let go. Shihan quickly applied a necklock. The director continued to crawl towards the gun. He tried to point the gun at Shihan. Just as he was about to pull the trigger, Shihan knocked him out. Shihan sat up in fear. The surrounding scene gradually became a sea of fire. Meanwhile, Dong-soo had chased Do-jin to the riverbank. Instead of continuing to run away, Do-jin calmly walked without fear. The fire grew bigger and bigger. Dong-soo hesitated whether to chase Do-jin or go back to save Shihan. Shihan was now gradually exhausted. Suddenly the door collapsed. Shihan saw Dong-soo coming back to save him. Dong-soo quickly helped Shihan up. At this moment, the director spoke up. He grabbed the gun and told Dong-soo to stop. As soon as the director pulled the trigger, Shihan stood in front of Dong-soo to block the bullet. The countdown ended. Everyone prayed for Shihan's safety. Blood started to fall, but the dead person was the director. Dong-soo turned around in surprise. The person who fired the gun was Do-jin. After Do-jin killed the director, he he also left. This time he spared Dong-soo's life. For the first time, Shihyun's sketch changed. Dong-soo didn't understand why Dojin saved Shihyun. Even Shihyun didn't know the reason. At this moment, the police arrived. Son-ho ran to hug Shihyun as soon as he saw her. Shihyun finally overcame her fate. Jung-sok asked what happened to change everything. Shihyun guessed that there was someone who also possessed the same ability as her, but this person's ability was much stronger than Shihyun's. Now they discovered that there had been someone else behind Dojin, a new enemy who was much more dangerous than Dojin. Meanwhile, at the new hideout, Dojin did not understand why Taejun had wanted to save Shihyun. It was clear that Shihyun had been the one who hindered their plan. Taejun said that it was because Shihyun was a very precious person. After saying that, he turned and left. Not long after, Jin-ah's funeral was held. Dong-soo sat sadly next to his girlfriend's ancestral tablet. Jung-sok and everyone else also came to say goodbye to Jin-ah. After the ceremony, Dong-soo went to talk to Shihyun. He asked why she had stood up to block the bullet for him at that time. Shihyun's brave action reminded Dong-soo of Jin-ah. Jin-ah and Shihyun had been very similar. They had both tried to do what they thought was right, but that courage also caused the person who stayed behind to suffer. So Dong-soo didn't want Shihyun to be so reckless anymore. Shihyun asked Dong-soo back to avenge his girlfriend. Was Dong-soo willing to ruin his life? Dong-soo apologized to Shihyun for saying unnecessary words. Then he walked in front of Jung-sok. He agreed to join Jung-sok's team. Jung-sok asked Dong-soo if he had done it for revenge. Dong-soo promised that he was just a member of the team. He would not violate the ethics of an officer. A new day began. Shihyun had seen the future from the beginning. However, the drawings this time were not related to Dojin. Shihyun's team was facing new, more difficult cases. The person appearing in this sketch was Taejun. Shihyun asked Jung-sok if Taejun had any enemies, but even Jung-sok couldn't figure out Taejun's enemies. They analyzed the first drawing. It was just a social media user. Shihyun's teammates printed out a long list of accounts to check. Meanwhile, Jung-sok went to see Taejun. Taejun was practicing swordsmanship. Jung-sok showed Taejun the picture, but Taejun didn't recognize the man holding the gun. Jung-sok said that this matter was related to Taejun's life. After Taejun saw the whole picture, he didn't care about the drawing. Taejun said that he had his own way to protect himself. After Jung-sok left, Taejun called Dojin to talk. Then, Taejun gave Dojin a picture. The person in the picture was Jae-min. At the same time, Shihyun remembered the drawing. Wasn't the clue in there? Shihyun's team immediately found the suspicious website. Now they needed to find the password. For Shihyun's teammate, this was too easy. She hacked the password with just a few steps. The account had been abandoned for 4 years. The hacker teammate quickly clicked on the latest file. It was a secretly recorded conversation between Jae-min and the employee. It seemed like Jae-min was soliciting the employee. Jae-min's threats scared the employee. In the end, she did as Jae-min said. Shihyun's team investigated Jae-min's identity. He was running an education fund. Jae-min's fund was involved in a bribery scandal, but the court found Jae-min innocent. However, Jae-min went missing after the trial. Dong-soo asked who the girl in the video was. However, the girl took her own life. Shihyun and Dong-soo then went to meet the girl's family. After the court declared Jae-min innocent, the girl was in great shock. Dong-soo gave the girl's family the sketch, but they did not recognize who was holding the gun in the sketch. Meanwhile, the gunman was stalking Taejun. While Dong-soo and Shihyun were investigating, their hacker teammate called. She said that the prosecutor in charge of the case was Shihyun's brother. Shihyun immediately contacted Son-ho. After receiving Shihyun's request for help, Son-ho immediately went to the base. When looking at the sketch, Son-ho recognized a scar in the drawing. It was the scar of an officer investigating the case. However, that officer had been dead for 4 years. Why was he in the drawing? Son-ho remembered the day after the trial. Son-ho had met the officer in charge on his way back. The officer in charge said that the victim had died because of him. The officer himself had promised to put Jae-min in jail. Now that all the evidence had been erased, the officer still wanted Son-ho to investigate again. Son-ho told the officer to stop, but the officer in charge was not satisfied. That was also the last time Son-ho saw that officer. Not long after, the officer in charge got into an accident. There were many bottles of alcohol in his car, so the case was ruled an accident. Dong-soo said that there were only 2 possibilities. One was that the sketch was wrong. The other was that the officer in charge was still alive, and Dong-soo was more inclined towards the second option. To investigate, Jung-sok and Seon-ho dug up the grave of the officer in charge. But even though they identified the body, they still could not find a way to solve the case. At that moment, the victim's family called. The family had found the victim's necklace. Suddenly, Shihyun noticed a stuffed animal. It looked look like the sketch. The victim's family said that that day was the anniversary of the victim's death. Once a year, someone would come and put a stuffed animal on the victim's grave. Suddenly, a thought occurred to Shihyun. Could the man with the gun and the officer in charge be the same person? Shihyun watched the footage and said there was a drawing of the cosmetic clinic, and the clock in the video matched the one worn by the gunman. Shihyun and Dong-soo immediately went to investigate the clinic. Dong-soo accidentally saw couples walking together. Dong-soo was sad when he remembered his ex-girlfriend. Shihyun went to comfort Dong-soo, but he thought she was not paying attention to her work. When they arrived in front of the clinic, a man had just walked out. However, Dong-soo did not suspect anything. It was not until the two saw the clinic being attacked that Dong-soo chased after the man. When Dong-soo called Do-jin's name, the man turned around. He quickly locked the door and ran away. Dong-soo angrily kicked the door open, but Do-jin had already run away. Dong-soo angrily turned around to find the doctor. Dong-soo asked if the doctor knew the man in the photo. The doctor fearfully said that he knew the officer in charge. This proved that the officer in charge was still alive. The body was Jaemin's. It was the officer in charge who killed Jaemin, and then he faked the crime scene. Meanwhile, Do-jin had obtained the officer's file. Do-jin wondered who that person was. Why did Tae-jun want Do-jin to kill that man? Tae-jun said that person wanted to kill Tae-jun at this place. Previously, the officer in charge was the person who took Do-jin's position. His name was Kyung-min. Tae-jun recounted the first time he met Kyung-min. It was pouring rain that day. Tae-jun said that Jane would commit more crimes. Tae-jun said that Jaemin would commit more crimes. Tae-jun said he wanted to cooperate with Kyung-min. But things had changed. 2 years ago, Kyung-min had tried to kill Tae-jun right here. Do-jin was surprised by this fact. Tae-jun explained further that Kyung-min had failed to fulfill the tasks that Tae-jun had given him. Tae-jun recalled the past. Kyung-min angrily pointed a gun at Tae-jun's face. Kyung-min asked how long Tae-jun had been lying to him. Tae-jun remained calm. There were some things Tae-jun couldn't say. Kyung-min asked how many of the people Kyung-min had killed were ordered by someone else, or rather, Tae-jun's boss. Tae-jun said that they had saved hundreds, thousands of people. However, Kyung-min didn't think so. They were just pretending to be saviors. It was best for them to stop everything. Tae-jun fearlessly walked in front of Kyung-min. Did Kyung-min want to kill Tae-jun? Did Kyung-min think Tae-jun didn't know about this? As soon as Tae-jun finished speaking, a bullet flew straight at Kyung-min. He painfully held his bloody arm and sat down in a corner. Tae-jun warned Kyung-min to never come back here again. This would be the only time Tae-jun would spare Kyung-min's life. Now, Do-jin needed to find Kyung-min before Dong-soo. But things weren't simple. Dong-soo's team was also at a dead end. It was clear that Kyung-min had changed his face. This proved that Kyung-min had another purpose. After Jaemin died, the police came to search his house. There were a total of 7 women's accessories. The victims' belongings were returned to their relatives by Kyung-min. That was also the reason Kyung-min killed Jaemin. This was exactly the same as what Do-jin was doing. They both dealt with people who would commit crimes in the future. The connection between Do-jin and Kyung-min was becoming clearer. Dong-soo speculates that Kyung-min is most likely Do-jin's predecessor. Dong-soo wants everyone to find the case documents. Through Kyung-min, Dong-soo will find Do-jin's name. The hacker then finds the old cases. The common point of the victims is that they all had the intention to kill, but they were all killed before committing the crime. There are 7 cases in total. All of them happened at the time Kyung-min disappeared. The hacker shows the recorded video. After comparing, she discovers that the two people's figures are exactly the same. Shihyun wonders why Tae-jun is the next target. Dong-soo guesses that Tae-jun is preparing to commit a crime, or that Tae-jun is the one behind everything. At the same time, in an apartment building, Kyung-min is living as a delivery man. When he returned to the store, the debt collectors came to find Kyung-min to collect the money he owed. Instead of fighting back, Kyung-min accepted to be beaten by the debt collectors. The boss threatened that if Kyung-min did not pay the debt, they would confiscate Kyung-min's store. Kyung-min also had to pay for his wife's medical bills. His wife was waiting for a suitable organ donor. Kyung-min's wife's condition was getting worse. Kyung-min told his wife that he would do everything he could to save her. As soon as Kyung-min left, Dong-soo and Shihyun went to the hospital to investigate. They came here to see Kyung-min's wife. She was a witness to a case. At that time, Kyung-min's wife was arrested, but Kyung-min's wife could not remember who had killed her kidnapper. When Shihyun showed Kyung-min's wife the photo, she recognized her husband. However, she lied to Shihyun that she had never met the person in the painting before. This lie could not fool Shihyun. After Dong-soo and Shihyun left, Kyung-min's wife called her husband. She said that the police had just come to find her. They showed her a picture of a man who looked a lot like Kyung-min. Kyung-min reassured his wife that it was all a misunderstanding. Just then, the doctor called. He informed her that a suitable donor had been found. However, Kyungmin needed to pay by 5 p.m. Kyungmin called his boss. Kyungmin decided to sell the restaurant to get money for his wife's surgery. Just as Kyungmin was about to meet the lenders, he was stopped by Dong-soo. Kyungmin still acted like he didn't know anything. Dong-soo invited Kyungmin to the police station to cooperate. With no other choice, Kyungmin had to do it. Sonho was surprised to see Kyungmin again, but they had no intention of reminiscing about past. Dong-soo asked why Kyungmin tried to kill Taejun, but Kyungmin had no plans to kill Taejun. It seemed like Kyungmin knew that someone here had supernatural powers. Kyungmin said he would tell everyone. In return, Kyungmin needed 3 hours. Dong-soo told him Taejun's name. He was the most suspicious person now. Dong-soo's deductions were correct, especially since Do-jin was trying to kill Kyungmin. All the evidence Dong-soo found pointed to Taejun being behind everything, but Kyungmin said that was just the tip of the iceberg. Taejun actually had another secret. After everyone cooperated with Kyungmin, Dong-soo let Kyungmin go. Now, someone was after Kyungmin, so Dong-soo had to act. There was only 1 hour left before the surgery. However, the boss was not there. He said he had other things to do. If Kyungmin was in such a hurry, he should sign the empty contract. Although Kyungmin knew it might be a trap, Kyungmin was in dire need of money. At this time, at the loan office, Do-jin had arrived 1 step ahead of Kyungmin. When Kyungmin arrived, all the subordinates in the room had been knocked unconscious. Kyungmin saw the contract on the table, along with a large bag of money. At this moment, Do-jin appeared. Kyungmin knew that Taejun had sent Do-jin. Do-jin gave the phone to Kyungmin. Kyungmin said that he had no intention of killing Taejun. Was Taejun sure that the future he saw was accurate? This made Do-jin a little suspicious. The time until the transplant was 40 minutes. Kyungmin asked Taejun for something before he died. However, Taejun refused. Kyungmin had been in the room for too long and had not come out. This made Dong-soo feel worried. Just as Do-jin was about to kill Kyungmin, Dong-soo appeared. Kyungmin asked Dong-soo to give his wife the hospital bill. In order to save his wife, Kyungmin attacked Do-jin. However, Kyungmin was shot. Dong-soo immediately shot Do-jin. Even though he was shot, Do-jin quickly jumped out the window and escaped. Kyungmin begged Dong-soo to save his wife, so Dong-soo took the money and drove to the hospital. Time was running out. When Dong-soo arrived, it was past the scheduled time. Therefore, Kyungmin's wife did not receive surgery. Jung-seok told Dong-soo to let Kyungmin be with his wife one last time. Kyungmin intended to tell his wife everything, but for Kyungmin's wife, Kyungmin was the person she loved the most. After Kyungmin's wife passed away, the debt collectors came to ask Kyungmin for money again. They wanted Kyungmin to take responsibility. Kyungmin was angry and wanted to beat them, but Dong-soo stopped Kyungmin. Dong-soo walked up to the debt collectors and said that this was a resting place for the dead, so Dong-soo gave them 3 seconds to go away. Suddenly, Kyungmin approached Dong-soo. Then Kyungmin knocked Dong-soo out. Then Kyungmin took the key to open the handcuffs. The debt collectors continued to insult Kyungmin's dead wife. Kyungmin couldn't hold back anymore. He taught them a lesson they would never forget. After a while, Dong-soo woke up. Kyungmin contacted Dong-soo. He told Dong-soo that Taejun didn't have the ability to see the future. However, Kyungmin didn't know who was behind that ability. Kyungmin only knew that Taejun always carried a notebook with him. Taejun then wrote down the orders he received. If Dong-soo wanted to know who gave Taejun the orders, he had to get that notebook. Dong-soo asked how he could trust Kyungmin, but now Kyungmin had nothing to hide. Kyungmin was very grateful for what Dong-soo had done for him. Kyungmin then cut off contact and left. Meanwhile, at a high-class restaurant, Taejun was having lunch with Chief Prosecutor. They were in contact with each other often. The Chief Prosecutor asked Taejun if he had any ambitions. Taejun said that he just wanted to stand behind a great person like Chief Prosecutor. This pleased the Chief Prosecutor. After returning, Taejun met Do-jin. He gave Do-jin a gun and said that Kyungmin would come to find Do-jin soon, so Do-jin should use it to kill Kyungmin. Kyungmin was at his home at the moment. He took out his toolbox that he had put away for a long time. Then he took out a gun. This was the moment to end this fateful bond. After getting information about the notebook, Dong-soo had a meeting with the team. Everyone had no idea where the notebook was. Apparently, Taejun always kept the notebook in a safe place, which was Taejun's office. Dong-soo wanted to take action immediately, but Jung-seok stopped him. Jung-seok said that this time, Jung-seok would take care of Taejun's case. If Kyungmin's information was correct, Taejun was breaking the law, since Taejun was a high-ranking official. If there was even the slightest mistake, Jung-seok's entire team would be fired. But Jung-seok forgot that Dong-soo didn't care about his career. Shi-hyun also wanted to join the case. No one in the team wanted to stay out of it. Finally, Jung-seok agreed to let everyone join. In order to get close to Taejun, Dong-soo went to the police station where he worked. Dong-soo intentionally bumped into Taejun's subordinates, who had tried to arrest Dong-soo in the park earlier. They explained that they were just just doing their duty. Dong-su intentionally provoked the subordinates. They angrily warned Dong-su not to cause trouble, but Dong-su was not afraid. He said that they were cowards. The angry subordinate attacked Dong-su, but he easily dodged the punch. The loud noise attracted the attention of the crowd. Dong-su continued to challenge the two subordinates, pretending to call his teammates to bring people over. News of the fight reached the special forces, and they immediately rushed over to question Dong-su. As soon as everyone in the room left, Shihan quietly sneaked into Taejun's room, and Shihan quickly went to find the notebook. Taejun was outside at this time. He received a message from the mysterious person. Taejun called his subordinates and immediately returned to the room. The subordinates quickly returned after receiving the order. On this side, Shihan discovered a sofa mark on the floor. She quickly pushed the sofa away. Sure enough, Shihan saw a notebook. As soon as she got the notebook, Shihan calmly walked out. At this moment, the subordinates arrived. They were curious about what Shihan was doing. Here, Shihan said she came to see Taejun, but she didn't see anyone there. The subordinate was suspicious and asked Shihan to hand over her bag for inspection. Despite Shihan's objection, he still grabbed the bag. However, there was nothing inside. They asked to search Shihan's body, but they didn't find anything suspicious. They were embarrassed and apologized to Shihan. It turns out that Shihan had secretly thrown the notebook out to the hacker girl first. Only then did Shihan calmly walk out. After completing the mission, the hacker girl called Shihan to inform her. However, on the way, the hacker girl was stopped by Kyungmin. He asked the hacker girl to hand over the notebook along with the hacker girl's phone. Dong-su felt something was wrong, so he answered the phone. Kyungmin thanked Dong-su for helping him find the notebook. Dong-su asked him what he was going to do with the notebook. Kyungmin said that Taejun was a clairvoyant and that he was serving someone else. The boss was a mysterious person whose identity no one knew. As soon as he hung up, the hacker girl attacked him by surprise. However, Kyungmin stopped her. He warned the hacker girl to hand over the notebook. The hacker girl tried to stall for time, but it was all in vain. He knocked out the hacker girl and took the notebook. Then Kyungmin called Taejun. Kyungmin said he was holding the notebook. Taejun asked what he wanted. Kyungmin said they would meet in an hour, and it was best for Taejun to go alone. Taejun immediately got in the car and left. He called Dojin to come to the meeting point in advance, but Taejun didn't expect that Kyungmin had predicted this. Kyungmin broke into the car and restrained Taejun. At the same time, the hacker girl was taken to the emergency room. Shihyun's group began to analyze the drawing again. Maybe they still had a chance now. At this moment, the hacker girl woke up. The hacker girl said she understood the meaning of the fourth sketch. It turned out that the hacker girl had seen Kyungmin's Bible. On it was written the name of an abandoned church. After comparing it with the photo, everyone guessed where Kyungmin was hiding. They immediately informed Jung-sok to leave. At the same time, Kyungmin had taken Taejun to the church. He coldly pointed the gun at Taejun. This scene was similar to what the sketch had outlined. Taejun turned around. He said that Kyungmin wouldn't get any information. Kyungmin fired 2 shots into the air. Then Kyungmin rotated his cylinder. Kyungmin wanted Taejun to experience anxiety so that he wouldn't know there were real bullets this time. As soon as he finished speaking, Kyungmin pulled the trigger. This time, there were no bullets. Kyungmin asked Taejun who was behind the manipulation. Taejun still didn't answer. Kyungmin continued to pull the trigger. Luck was on Taejun's side once again. Taejun's mind was tense. Taejun warned that if he died, all information about the mastermind would disappear. Kyungmin said that he would find out the true identity of that mastermind soon. Kyungmin's purpose was to torture Taejun. Taejun held his breath, waiting for Kyungmin to pull the trigger. At this moment, Taejun begged Kyungmin to give him more time. Kyungmin said that he would give Taejun exactly 10 minutes. That would be the last respect for Taejun. When the 10 minutes were up, Taejun begged for a little more time. Taejun had a reason to delay like that. At this moment, Dong-su rushed in. He warned Kyungmin to stay still. Taejun said that he would not die here. Dong-su convinced Kyungmin to stop. Otherwise, the clue about the mastermind would disappear. But Kyungmin was not afraid of death. Dong-su painfully said that Dong-su's fiancée was also killed by the mastermind's subordinates. Dong-su was the one who understood Kyungmin's feelings. Dong-su persuaded Kyungmin to think about his wife. Kyungmin remembered the last words his wife said. Finally, Kyungmin put down the gun. Dong-su quickly retrieved the weapon along with the notebook. Suddenly, a bullet from outside stabbed Kyungmin straight in the heart. Dong-su immediately caught Kyungmin. Before dying, Kyungmin tried to say what he knew. Dong-su angrily took the gun and went to find Taejun, but he was stopped by Jung-so. Taejun said that he had known in advance the notebook would be stolen. Therefore, Taejun prepared a fake notebook. The real notebook had been destroyed. Taejun warned Dong-su's group that if they continued to investigate him, they would end up like Kyungmin. Dong-su angrily walked in front of Taejun. He said he would make Taejun and the mastermind behind find it pay. Jung-seok asked Taejun why he had done that. Taejun had always been a man of justice, but now he said he had found the true justice in his life. After they had completed Kyung-min's funeral, Dong-soo and the hacker girl focused on investigating the last clue. The name Kyung-min had mentioned was that of an Italian journalist. However, this woman had never been to Korea. Things got worse. Shihan saw that Dong-soo was so sad that she invited him out for a few drinks. She said they needed to release their emotions. The two of them drank until late at night. In the end, Dong-soo fell asleep first. Shihan gently stroked his head. Meanwhile, on the rooftop, Doo-jin recalled the feeling when he had shot Kyung-min. Doo-jin wondered if he would end up like Kyung-min, and if he was doing the justice he wanted. A new day began. Early in the morning, the hacker girl discovered that Shihyun had not returned home. The hacker girl was worried about the person who had drunk with Shihyun. At that moment, Dong-soo appeared, still drunk, so the hacker girl had the answer to her question. After that, the group investigated Kyung-min. He had taken a fake name. Every month, he had transferred money to a charity that helped the families of victims. After investigating further, they discovered that Kyung-min had transferred money to a woman. 3 years ago, her husband had died. Shihyun realized that her husband was Director Jung, the journalist where Shihyun's father used to work. The murderer has not been found yet. Shihyun said that the victim was not guilty. Dong-soo thought that Kyung-min transferred the money just to ease his guilt. Shihyun and Dong-soo then went to Director Jung's wife's house. The wife said that her husband had talked on the phone with someone. The topic of the conversation was about a person named Jung-seo. However, the wife could not remember the content of the conversation. Afterwards, Shihyun and Dong-soo went around Director Jung's house to investigate further. Shihyun was curious as to why Kyung-min killed Director Jung. Suddenly, Shihyun saw a book written by an Italian author. Inside the book were an old tape and a notebook. Shihyun was surprised when it was Shihyun's father's notebook. Inside were the evidence that Shihyun's father had investigated. At the same time, the prosecutor's office, everyone was talking about who would become the next chief prosecutor. Now there were only 2 candidates left, the current chief prosecutor and Son-ho's senior. This time, Sung-ho met Son-ho to reveal something, that the murderer was about to be pardoned. After having lunch with Son-ho, Son-ho ran to Shihyun's base. Son-ho was surprised when Shihyun found their father's notebook. When he heard Director Jung's name, Son-ho said that Director Jung was a close friend of Son-ho's father. Son-ho's father had investigated the boss behind the manipulation. That was someone who could have a great influence on the Korean economy. Jung-seok asked if everyone thought the story was exaggerated, but Son-ho defended his father. Then, Shihyun showed Son-ho the recording. A woman had come to persuade Shihyun's father to join her side. However, Shihyun's father had refused. After knowing the truth, Shihyun couldn't hold back her emotions. Suddenly, she had a headache. Shihyun started to fall into a state of unconsciousness. She drew new sketches. Son-ho recognized senior Sung-ho, along with the murderer who had killed Seon-ho's parents at first sight. Things were getting serious. 20 years ago, the person who had caught the murderer was senior Sung-ho. At that time, Seon-ho revealed that the murderer had been pardoned 3 days earlier. Shihyun was furious when she heard this news. She wanted to find him to take revenge, but Dong-soo stopped her. Shihyun finally regained her composure. Everyone began to investigate the murderer. His mother had died 3 years earlier, while he was in prison. After getting information about the murderer's whereabouts, Son-ho said he would go see him. Dong-soo said he should go with Son-ho. Shihyun wanted to go too, but Dong-soo said she should stay and analyze the sketch. Son-ho thanked Dong-soo for stopping his younger sister. Dong-soo asked what had happened that day. Son-ho painfully recalled the horrible memories. That day, Shihyun had drawn a scene of her parents dying. Her parents had been worried about their daughter's illness, so they had taken Shihyun to see a doctor. However, Shihyun had continued to draw, so her mother had canceled the appointment and took Shihyun home. At that time, Shihyun's mother had seen the murderer killing her husband. She had tried to fight back and protect her daughter. However, she had been killed by the murderer. The murderer had stepped in front of Shihyun. After that, he had quickly run away. Until now, Shihyun still blamed herself. If she hadn't sketched, her family wouldn't have died. Even Son-ho couldn't understand the pressure on Shihyun's shoulders. After that, Son-ho and Dong-soo went to the murderer's house. Dong-soo picked up a piece of iron wire on the side of the road. He decided to break into the murderer's house to investigate. Son-ho stayed outside to keep watch while Dong-soo took action. Dong-soo then unlocked the door. He carefully went inside to check. Dong-soo was surprised to see that on the second floor, there were many documents evidence related to Seon-ho's senior. At this moment, the door opened. The murderer was scared and ran away when he saw the police. He quickly blocked the door with something. However, his suspicious actions were discovered by Seon-ho. Seon-ho quickly followed the murderer. The murderer quickly jumped downstairs. After that, he provoked Seon-ho and ran away. Seon-ho angrily chased after him. The killer turned into an underground parking lot. Seon-ho immediately ran downstairs. At this time, Dong-soo had escaped. He immediately called Seon-ho. Dong-soo told Seon-ho to wait for him, but Seon-ho acted on his own. Seon-ho tried to persuade the killer to come out and talk, but Seon-ho was ambushed by the killer. Seon-ho's arm hit the iron bar hard. Seon-ho tried to chase after the killer, but he lost sight of him. Dong-soo told Seon-ho to go to the hospital first. Dong-soo was surprised to realize that Seon-ho's wound was similar to the sketch. Seon-ho told Dong-soo to keep this a secret from Shi-hun. Seon-ho assured that he would not die. At the same time, at the base, the hacker girl found new clues, especially information about the old photo. It was a photo of a financial organization. After further investigation, there was only one article about someone in the organization. All the clues became difficult. Shi-hun immediately called Seon-ho. She wanted to meet Seon-ho to investigate further. Seon-ho said that the killer was following Seon-ho. Seon-ho asked if he appeared in the sketch. Shi-hun answered yes. Then she asked Seon-ho's schedule. Seon-ho had to attend the anniversary ceremony tomorrow. Seon-ho also knew that the killer would come looking for him. But Seon-ho was not afraid. Seon-ho's biggest regret was not being able to give him the highest sentence. So this time, Seon-ho would put him in prison for the rest of his life. After leaving the office, Shi-hun fell into deep thought. In the picture she drew, the murderer had been in prison for 20 years. How could he use a sniper rifle? At that moment, an unknown number called. Seon-ho was surprised that the murderer had called him. The murderer said he wanted to meet Seon-ho. After telling him the meeting place, Seon-ho agreed to meet him. Shi-hun was worried when Seon-ho wanted to go alone. She told him to wait for her to get car. After Shi-hun returned, the two went to meet the murderer. When the car arrived, the murderer suddenly opened the door and got in. He hurriedly said to drive away. Someone was following them. Shi-hun angrily looked at the person who had killed her parents, but Seon-ho told her to drive away. When they arrived safely, the murderer apologized to the two, but Shi-hun could not accept his apology. Seon-ho put his hand on her shoulder to comfort her. The murderer said he hadn't actually killed their parents. Shi-hun turned around angrily. Shi-hun himself had seen him kill his mother. Why would he lie now? The murderer said he was not the one who had killed Shi-hun's father. As for Shi-hun's mother, it was just an accident. The murderer remembered that 20 years ago, someone had paid him a lot of money. They had asked the murderer to bring the notebook back. However, when the murderer arrived, he was scared to see that Shi-hun's father had been killed. At that moment, Shi-hun's mother and son returned. Fearing that he would be convicted, he went to explain. During the fight, he accidentally killed Shi-hun's mother. He was scared and immediately ran away from the crime scene. But Shi-hun couldn't accept this story. Seon-ho tried to restrain Shi-hun. Seon-ho wanted to investigate who had hired the murderer, but that person had died a few months after the murderer was arrested. Now no one could prove what the murderer said. The murderer still insisted that he did not lie. Meanwhile, Taejun was scolding Dojin for being late. Dojin said that he had been looking for information about the murderer. At the same time, he had also looked for information about Seon-ho. It was clear that Seon-ho had not committed any crime. Why had Taejun dragged Seon-ho into this? Taejun said that it was a complicated political game. Just as Taejun was about to leave, Dojin stopped him. Taejun angrily turned towards Dojin. Taejun asked Dojin to take his hands off him. Taejun warned that he would not let Dojin get away with this. Dojin's ending would be the same as Kyung-min's. But after Taejun looked into Dojin's determined eyes, Taejun decided to tell the whole truth. Taejun himself could not see the future. Dojin was shocked to know the truth, so it had all just been an act. Taejun said that there was someone else who could see the future. If Dojin wanted to meet that person, then he had to do Taejun a favor before that night. At the same time, at the base, the hacker girl had found the fugitive. It was none other than Dojin. At that moment, a car crashed into Shi-hun's car. The strong impact made everyone lose consciousness. Only Shi-hun could see the murderer. He was Dojin. Dojin threw Shi-hun a phone. Dojin then took the murderer and Seon-ho away. After a while, Shi-hun woke up. Taejun warned Shi-hun not to try anything. Taejun wanted Shi-hun to hand over Shi-hun's father's notebook to him. In return, he would release Seon-ho. Shi-hun was angry when Taejun threatened her. Taejun asked her if she didn't know about the wound on Seon-ho's hand. Seon-ho had been the one who appeared in the sketch. Taejun asked Shi-hun to come see him alone. Shi Shihan angrily called Dong-su. Shihan was angry when Dong-su didn't tell her the truth. Dong-su felt that something was wrong with Shihan, so he contacted Seon-ho, but no one answered. Seon-ho had been tied to a chair. The scene was similar to Shihan's sketch. Dojin walked in front of Seon-ho. Seon-ho told Dojin to stop and turn himself in. Taejun had just been using Dojin, but what Dojin needed was a reason to exist in this world, and Taejun had given it to Dojin. Seon-ho asked Dojin if he knew Taejun was taking orders from someone else. Dojin did not do this for Taejun. Dojin has committed too many crimes. At this moment, Taejun appeared. He coldly walked in front of Seon-ho. At the same time, at the base, Shihan was trying to steal her father's notebook. Suddenly, the lights turned on. Dong-su asked Shihan to explain this. Shihan begged Dong-su to let her go, but Dong-su did not agree. He wanted to follow Shihan. The place Taejun had arranged to meet was a large park. Dong-su and Shihan had no way of knowing where Taejun's men were hiding. Shihan asked Dong-su why he did this, but Dong-su did not care about the reason. Shihan warned Dong-su not to use Seon-ho's life as bait. The time had come. At this moment, Dojin appeared. He asked Shihan to hand over the notebook, but Shihan wanted to see Seon-ho first. Dojin gave her a photo of Seon-ho. After Shihan confirmed Seon-ho's location, she handed the notebook to Dojin. Dong-su followed Dojin from behind. Shihan ran to the place where Seon-ho was being held. However, Dong-su following Dojin was discovered by Dojin. Dojin called Shihan and told her that Seon-ho was in the freezer. There wasn't much oxygen left, so Shihan should tell Dong-su not to follow him anymore. When it was safe, Dojin would tell her the exact address of the warehouse. Shihan immediately called Dong-su. She begged him to leave, but Dong-su didn't want to lose the notebook because the notebook was the most important clue. That's why Dong-su turned off Shihan's phone. At that moment, a bus passed by. Just as Dojin was about to get into the car, Dong-su pointed a gun at Dojin's head. Dojin warned that if he died, then Seon-ho would die too. Dong-su was put in a difficult situation. He should capture Dojin and save Seon-ho. In the end, Dong-su chose to let Dojin go. Meanwhile, Shihan was searching each storage room one by one. She remembered the drawing she drew. It was the storage room number. She quickly ran to find the warehouse. There had not been much time left. Shihan immediately broke the warehouse door. She had saved Seon-ho. At that moment, Shihan called Dong-su to inform him. Dong-su immediately jumped to attack Dojin. He angrily knocked Dojin to the ground. It was clear that Dong-su had improved a lot. He completely overwhelmed Dojin. Dojin was repeatedly punched in the face by Dong-su, but Dojin still had a strange smile. Dong-su's appearance made Dojin laugh. Even if Dong-su killed Dojin, the pain was still there. At that moment, a car rushed over. Dong-su quickly dodged to the side. Dojin got into the car and escaped. After letting Dojin escape, Dong-su and Shihan returned to the base. Jung-seok scolded the two for losing the evidence. After solving the case, the two would be punished. Fortunately, Seon-ho was safe. The team then met to discuss strategies. Jung-seok didn't understand why Taejun wanted to catch the murderer. The promotion ceremony was coming up soon. Someone would definitely benefit from this. Suddenly, Shihan remembered what the murderer had said. The murderer had just been a bait. Taejun wanted Seon-ho to fail the promotion. Shihan left with Seon-ho after the meeting. She wondered why Seon-ho didn't believe the murderer. Seon-ho said let him figure it out. At the same time, Dong-su was getting angry. He and Dojin were in the same situation, but the paths they had chosen were different. Now, at the secret location, the person who could truly see the future appeared. Taejun had warned Dojin that if Dojin saw that person's face, he would never be able to start his life over again. The door opened. The person who entered surprised Dojin greatly. That person was none other than Seon-ho. Seon-ho had been directing Taejun from the beginning. Everything up until then had been manipulated by Seon-ho. Dojin asked Seon-ho if he wanted to use Dojin to kill the murderer, but Seon-ho just smiled and replied that if he had wanted revenge, Seon-ho would have taken revenge a long time ago. Then Seon-ho explained in more detail. There had been a big economic crisis before. Dojin was confused when Seon-ho brought up that issue. Seon-ho asked Dojin if he would believe him if he said that there had been someone behind the manipulation of that crisis. Seon-ho said that in that country there had been a group that used power and strength to their own advantage, and the mastermind behind all of that group's plans had been the boss. Seon-ho also knew that Dojin's wife had been killed, so if Dojin wanted her death to have meaning, he had to do something important. Seon-ho then gave Dojin a blueprint, which he had used to find clues about the boss. Dojin asked what these things had to do with the boss. Seon-ho explained that the boss had great power. His influence had spread to many areas. This was no longer just a matter of killing people. The boss's existence had a great influence on that society. Dojin understood that Seon-ho wanted him to kill the boss. However, even Seon-ho did not know the boss's identity. Dojin looked coldly at Seon-ho. If Seon-ho intended to deceive him, Dojin would immediately kill Seon-ho. After meeting Dojin, Seon-ho went to talk to the murderer. He was very surprised that Seon-ho had been been on Taejun's side. Sonho said he would need to borrow the identity of the murderer. In 2 days, the murderer would be the suspect in the shooting of the new chief prosecutor candidate. The murderer begged Sonho to spare him, but Sonho didn't care. He would punish the people who had killed his parents. A new day began. Jung-seok and Sonho were assigned to protect Sung-ho. Dong-soo and Shihan went to the police station. They needed to investigate the sniper rifle that had appeared in the painting. Dong-soo knew someone who liked guns. That person was none other than Dong-soo's subordinate. Dong-soo gave the sketch to his colleague. After he looked at the gun, he realized that it was a sniper rifle used in the army. It was similar to the gun that Do-jin had used to kill someone. As soon as Shihan went out to answer the phone, the colleague apologized to Dong-soo. If he had listened to Dong-soo and had stayed by Jin-ah's side, she would still have been alive. But Dong-soo didn't blame him. He knew that it was no one's fault. Just then, Shihan returned. Shihan informed him that the hacker girl had found a location similar to the sketch. It was an apartment overlooking the river. Shihan asked Dong-soo where he thought Do-jin would have shot from. Theoretically, standing there could have assassinated the candidate. However, Dong-soo just laughed. He said that this only appeared in movies because in the world there were fewer than 10 people who could have shot from there. According to what Dong-soo had known about Do-jin, he could shoot well within a range of 500 m. As for a distance of 1000 m like there, Do-jin was almost incapable. Now Dong-soo and Shihan needed to investigate more information about the old case. The hacker girl sent the two of them the location of the boss's wife. She said that her husband had received a large sum of money at that time. Suddenly, Shihan saw a cassette player. The woman said that it had been a gift from her son. Shihan immediately asked for his contact address. The woman also said that a man claiming to be a police officer came here last month to find her. Dong-soo and Shihan were surprised that someone had come here before them. After getting a new clue, Shihan's entire team gathered. They investigated the son's credit card. Why would a son buy a cassette tape, something that seemed so outdated? Shihan thought that he might have colluded with his father to hide the evidence in the tape. The next day, Shihan called Dong-soo. The police officer the wife was talking about was Dong-soo's junior. Dong-soo angrily went to the police station. As soon as he saw the junior, Dong-soo grabbed him by the neck. He asked why he went to see his wife. Under pressure from Dong-soo, the junior said that Jin-ah had asked him to go there to investigate. Dong-soo asked why Jin-ah asked him to do this. He said that Jin-ah was investigating cases related to the current chief prosecutor. The tape that the son had was very important. However, the tape was too old, so Jin-ah took it back and tried to restore it. Dong-soo immediately returned home. He searched through his girlfriend's old stuff. Shihan asked Dong-soo if he was okay. Dong-soo said he was fine. Every time someone mentioned Jin-ah, Dong-soo became sad. Even though he searched Jin-ah's entire closet, Dong-soo still couldn't find the tape. Dong-soo asked the hacker girl to investigate Jin-ah's contact history. They discovered that Jin-ah was in frequent contact with the current chief prosecutor. Not to mention that the chief prosecutor was in charge of the case 20 years ago. All the clues gradually came together. Everyone suspected that chief prosecutor was the one who ordered Jin-ah's murder. Could he be the boss they were looking for? To clear things up, Dong-soo wanted to go see the chief prosecutor, but Jung-seok stopped him. Dong-soo couldn't go see the chief prosecutor without evidence. Dong-soo said he already had a plan. After saying that, he turned around and left. Sonho smiled as he watched Dong-soo leave without thinking. A moment later, Dong-soo arrived before the chief prosecutor. The chief prosecutor asked why Dong-soo was here. Dong-soo said he wanted to talk to the chief prosecutor about the case Jin-ah was investigating. The chief prosecutor said he had something important to do and had to leave, so Dong-soo had 10 minutes to explain. Dong-soo began to recount Jin-ah's case. 2 months ago, Jin-ah was investigating the prosecutors. Among them, Jin-ah found a case 20 years ago that the chief prosecutor was in charge of. The chief prosecutor was upset at being suspected. Dong-soo said he suspected the chief prosecutor of being involved in Jin-ah's case. He warned that if the chief prosecutor confessed, Dong-soo would give him a way out. The chief prosecutor was surprised that Dong-soo was threatening him. The chief prosecutor asked if Dong-soo was recording and said that if Dong-soo truly wanted to hear what he had to say, he should turn off the recorder. Dong-soo immediately threw the phone on the table. The chief prosecutor began to tell the story. He was the one who ordered Jin-ah to investigate case. At first, he also suspected that someone had killed the person first to silence silence him. Dong-su said that the murderer was Do Jin, but the chief prosecutor had never heard of this name. Dong-su asked who Jin-ah was investigating, but the chief prosecutor refused to reveal it. Dong-su angrily said that he would make the chief prosecutor tell him. The chief prosecutor angrily replied that the next time they met, Dong-su could not leave so easily. After meeting the chief prosecutor, Dong-su returned to the base. If the chief prosecutor was not the boss, then who was the boss? At this moment, the junior called Dong-su. He handed Dong-su a memory card. It was the gift Jin-ah had given Dong-su. Dong-su immediately remembered that Jin-ah had had an identical one. Dong-su immediately went to Jin-ah's car. Sure enough, the memory card was still there. Dong-su opened the memory card. The entire conversation had been recorded. Dong-su was surprised to see Shihyun panicking. The voice in the tape had belonged to Sung-ho. He had been close to Shihyun's father in the past. Shihyun immediately called Son-ho. Shihyun already knew the mastermind behind his father's murder. Son-ho told Shihyun to wait until he got home and then tell him. Shihyun hadn't expected that Son-ho had known the truth for a long time. Taejun asked if they should change the plan, but Son-ho said to continue with the old plan. There was not much time left. Dong-su and Shihyun immediately split up to act. At the same time, at the party, the chief prosecutor invited Sung-ho to go on a yacht to celebrate. Sung-ho had wanted to refuse, but he had no choice but to listen to the chief prosecutor. In the end, Sung-ho had to agree. The sudden change of route had made it impossible for everyone to change their plans. At that time, Do Jin was preparing a sniper rifle. He made a hole just big enough to fit in the glass. Do Jin had everything ready. Meanwhile, Shihyun was already on the yacht. She carefully observed the surrounding space. She immediately called Dong-su. Do Jin's location was in the apartment they had been to, 1000 m above ground. If Sung-ho got on the yacht and moved, the distance would be 500 m. Dong-su was angry that he had missed an important clue. Time was running out. Do Jin saw the yacht appear. He was waiting for Son-ho's orders. Jung-seok also received Dong-su's report, so he asked Sung-ho to change places for safety. At that moment, the chief prosecutor called Sung-ho to talk on the rooftop. Sung-ho hesitated when he received the invitation. The chief prosecutor said that he had reinvestigated the old case. Sung-ho was worried that the chief prosecutor had discovered something, so Sung-ho went upstairs as the chief prosecutor had told him. By the time Shihyun found out, Sung-ho had already left. On the deck, the chief prosecutor said that Sung-ho was a pragmatist, someone who would do anything to succeed. That was what the chief prosecutor liked about Sung-ho. Sung-ho asked what the chief prosecutor had known. The chief prosecutor said that all the evidence was with the prosecutor. With the information the chief prosecutor had, the chief prosecutor had controlled Sung-ho. Now the chief prosecutor wanted Sung-ho to give up his position as a candidate for the new chief prosecutor's position. Sung-ho smiled and refused. He thought that the chief prosecutor did not have the evidence in his hands. Otherwise, the chief prosecutor would have released it. At this moment, Do Jin loaded his gun. Sung-ho was in Do Jin's sights. Just as he was about to pull the trigger, Shihyun ran over and pushed Sung-ho away. The bullet immediately hit the chief prosecutor. It turned out that the chief prosecutor was the one Do Jin was aiming for. Shihyun was stunned when he saw the chief prosecutor fall. Meanwhile, in the apartment, Dong-su was chasing Do Jin. Suddenly, Dong-su heard a woman scream. Dong-su rushed to the stairs to check. Just downstairs, the murderer was dead in a pool of blood. Next to him was the gun used to kill the chief prosecutor. The news about the case and the murderer was reported in the press. The police also found a photo that the murderer posted before the crime happened. Now all the evidence pointed to the murderer as the real culprit. Meanwhile, at the secret location, Taejun went to see Sung-ho. It turned out that they had formed an alliance. Sung-ho laughed when the chief prosecutor was killed. Now there was no one who could compete with Sung-ho for the position of chief prosecutor. However, Sung-ho was still worried about one thing. He asked Taejun if he knew Shihyun. Sung-ho felt that Shihyun's eyes seemed to be suspicious of Sung-ho. Sung-ho did not expect that he himself was just a card being used. Sung-ho wanted to use Sung-ho to find the final boss. Taejun warned Sung-ho that Shihyun would definitely investigate Sung-ho. Therefore, before finding the final boss, Taejun wanted Sung-ho to protect Sung-ho. Sung-ho coldly turned around and looked straight into Taejun's eyes. Has Sung-ho ever said anything wrong? Suddenly, Sung-ho had a headache. Sung-ho had just seen a vision of the future. Sung-ho ordered Taejun to go to Sung-ho's room immediately. At the same time, at the base, Dong-su was thinking about what the chief prosecutor said. The chief prosecutor was the one who instructed Jin-ah to investigate. Based on the current situation, it was highly likely that the person Jin-ah was investigating was Sung-ho. Dong-su was sure that the evidence was with the chief prosecutor. Right now, Dong-su needed to go to the chief prosecutor's office to find it. There was not much time left. Jung-seok said that if Dong-su found the evidence, it would be illegal evidence. However, there was no time left. Dong-su could only take take a risk. Then, he and the hacker girl immediately drove to the chief prosecutor's office. But they were too late. Taejun had already had people search everything here. He found a set of documents that Jin Ah had collected. Just as Taejun was about to leave, Dong-soo blocked his way. The bodyguard rushed forward to push Dong-soo, but he was quickly knocked down by Dong-soo. Dong-soo angrily told Taejun that Taejun had someone killed Jin Ah just because Jin Ah found something unfavorable to Taejun, right? At that moment, the bodyguard pulled out a weapon and hit Dong-soo. He painfully sat down on the ground. Taejun said that it was all Dong-soo's imagination. Just as Taejun was about to leave, Dong-soo warned Taejun he would make Taejun pay for Jin Ah's death. The failure of the mission made Shihyun feel disappointed. She thought that the mysterious person's ability was stronger than hers. Sonho sadly told Shihyun to withdraw from this case. He didn't want her to rush into this case. Sonho really wanted Shihyun to live a normal life like other girls, but Shihyun couldn't accept it. She had to find the real culprit who killed her parents. At the same time, Taejun was talking to Sungho. They had destroyed all the evidence they found. Sungho asked Taejun what he wanted from Sungho, but Taejun did not tell Sungho his true intentions. A new day began. Taejun called Dojin early in the morning, but Dojin did not pick up. Taejun angrily went to check. Dojin told Taejun that he had only had a little drink. Surprisingly, Taejun drank a whole bottle of wine in one gulp. Then he sat down across from Dojin. Dojin told Taejun about his dream. In the dream, Dojin was running home. No matter how fast Dojin ran, he always came back late. Taejun said he did not want to hear about it. Dojin chased after Taejun. He felt guilty for disappointing Taejun. Taejun said that he had done something very wrong to Dojin. Maybe it was because of the alcohol that Taejun talked so much. After that, Taejun left. At the same time, at the base, Shihyun saw a new vision. Shihyun immediately drew what would happen. She drew a medicine related to the disease of the elderly. Jung-soo and everyone came closer to observe. Shihyun drew a scene of a funeral. This meant that someone among them would have to die. The atmosphere became heavy. Shihyun collapsed and went to the rooftop to get some fresh air. Jung-suk understood Shihyun's feelings, so Jung-suk encouraged Shihyun. However, fear took over everyone. No one was ready for death. After Jung-suk left, it was Dong-soo's turn to go to the rooftop. Dong-soo sat next to Shihyun and listened to her confide. She didn't know what she was trying to pursue. Dong-soo advised Shihyun to let go of everything. He advised her to live the life she wanted. Shihyun wanted to ask Dong-soo what she would do after she left. Dong-soo said he would definitely catch the real culprit. After that, Shihyun decided to go investigate with Dong-soo. They needed to meet someone. It was the department chief of a large bank. When the two of them arrived at the company and asked the staff said that the police had determined that it was an accident. This surprised Dong-soo. The hacker girl had found the case documents. The department chief was currently in a coma in the hospital after he jumped from the upper floor. Luckily, there was a large tree below that saved the head of the department chief. Dong-soo went to the hospital to confirm after getting the information. Shihyun asked the doctor if he knew this prescription. However, it was useless for comatose patients. Dong-soo felt that the head of the department chief was keeping some secret. However, the patient had been in a coma for 6 months. At this moment, the doctor came over. The doctor looked up the medicine Shihyun asked about. There was one case in the world where that medicine was used to wake up a comatose patient. When Dong-soo passed by another hospital room, he noticed the bottle in the picture. Shihyun realized that Dong-soo was different. She forbade him to use the medicine on the department chief. They had had no right to do that. Dong-soo tried to convince Shihyun to wake the department chief, but she refused. Dong-soo took advantage of the time when Shihyun went out first, so he decided to inject the department chief. At that moment, Shihyun returned. She asked him what he was doing. Dong-soo said that if anything happened to the department chief, he would take responsibility. Seeing Dong-soo's determination, Shihyun agreed to let Dong-soo inject the medicine into the department chief. Shihyun anxiously waited for the results. As expected, the department chief finally woke up. Meanwhile, at the church, Taejun made an appointment to meet Sonho. What Sonho had worried about was Shihyun's feelings, whether she would forgive him. After that, the two of them monitored Sungho's movements. However, Sungho had been one step ahead. He had hired a stalker to follow Taejun. After investigating, Sungho discovered the relationship between Taejun and Seonho. Sungho was surprised when the two met privately, and he was no stranger to the name Seonho. It turned out that Seonho was the son of the journalist who had been killed by Sungho 20 years earlier. Back at the hospital, Dong-soo was asking the doctor about the department chief's situation. The department chief's wife had passed away a few years ago. Now the department chief only had a son left. However, he had not contacted the department chief. Faced with Dong-soo's questions, the department chief tried to avoid answering. Dong-soo asked the department chief if he knew Jin. The department chief was a little surprised when Dong-soo mentioned that name, but the department chief remained remained silent. This made Dong-soo angry. Just then Jung-suk appeared. Jung-soo pulled Dong-soo aside to talk to him so he could calm down. Dong-soo apologized to Jung-suk for being so agitated. Jung-suk sat down next to Dong-soo, wondering if Dong-soo had heard of the vagrant. Dong-soo wondered what a vagrant was. Jung-suk told him his story. After his daughter had died, Jung-seok had wandered around looking for the murderer. After much effort, Jung-suk finally found him. At that time, his enemy was sitting on the railing. When he saw Jung-suk, he ended his life. Until then, Jung-suk had always asked himself question: if he met his enemy, would he kill him? That question haunted Jung-suk forever. Now Jung-suk didn't want Dong-soo to follow his path. Meanwhile, in the hospital room, the department chief started talking. 6 months earlier, the department chief had met Jin-ah. Jin-ah knew everything the department chief knew. Shi-hyun told the department chief that Jin-ah was dead. The department chief was saddened by the news. The department chief should have died. Shi-hyun reassured the department chief. Then, she gave the sketch to the department chief. The department chief was surprised to see a guitar in the sketch. It was the department chief's son's guitar. The department chief said that he had become like this because of the report he had written. The department chief had one request. Shi-hyun should bring his son here. When he saw that his son was safe, he would tell her everything. At that moment, the department chief's son was working at a convenience store. He worked hard every day to earn money to pay for his father's living expenses and hospital bills. Shi-hyun, unable to contact the son, took the initiative to look for him. Meanwhile, Seon-ho saw the future again. This time the hacker girl would die. Seon-ho immediately called Tae-jun. Do-jin had already left for the mission site. Seon-ho told Tae-jun to pay attention to the hacker girl. Seon-ho didn't want the hacker girl to be in danger. Tae-jun asked why Seon-ho cared about that. Seon-ho admitted that he didn't want to see Shi-hyun cry. As soon as Seon-ho left, the stalker followed him. Meanwhile, Tae-jun was captured by Sung-ho's men. They didn't allow Tae-jun to contact anyone. At the same time, Seon-ho arrived at the secret base. There were also many documents investigating the boss inside. Seon-ho suddenly realized that there was someone behind him. Seon-ho grabbed a pen and quickly rushed at the stalker, but the stalker shocked Seon-ho and knocked him out. He tied Seon-ho to the chair. Then he reported the situation to Sung-ho. He said he would call back in an hour. Facing Sung-ho, Tae-jun still kept a cold face. Sung-ho showed Tae-jun the photos he had taken. Tae-jun realized that he and Seon-ho had been exposed. Sung-ho asked when they had known each other. Tae-jun said that he had discovered Seon-ho accepting bribes before, so Tae-jun knew Seon-ho's weakness. At the same time, an unbelievable coincidence happened. The son of the department chief was an acquaintance of the hacker girl's family. He often worked there. At that moment, the hacker girl was on leave and helping out at her mother's cafe. At this moment, the hacker girl noticed the department chief's son's guitar. It was the guitar in Shi-hyun's sketch. A bad feeling came over the hacker girl. She immediately called Shi-hyun to report the situation. At this moment, Do-jin appeared. The hacker girl was scared and told everyone. Dong-soo immediately sped up and drove to the coffee shop. The hacker girl immediately took action. She told her mother to go rest first. Then she took out her police badge. She said that the department chief had woken up. This surprised the department chief's son. The hacker girl pointed to the man who was approaching. He was the one who wanted to capture the department chief's son. There was no more time to explain. They needed to leave quickly. Do-jin felt that something was wrong, so he sped up. When Do-jin entered the house, he didn't see a single person. He carefully observed everything around. Then he chased after the hacker girl and the department chief's son. The hacker girl group arrived at an abandoned house. Do-jin was chasing them from behind. He carefully searched each room with his gun. The hacker girl led the department chief's son upstairs, but the door was locked. There was not much time left. The hacker girl tried to find a way out. Suddenly she saw a door that looked like Shi-hyun's sketch. As soon as she ran out, she saw Do-jin. She quickly let the department chief's son run in another direction, and she stayed to find a way to stop Do-jin. However, railing here was too old. The hacker girl accidentally slipped and hung in the air. She tried to hold on to the railing. At this moment, Do-jin appeared. He coldly looked at her and then left. As soon as the hacker girl slipped from the railing, Do-jin suddenly turned around and pulled her up. The hacker girl looked at Do-jin in fear, but he just turned around and left. Meanwhile, Dong-soo had arrived. He quickly searched for the hacker girl, but it was too late. Do-jin pointed a gun at the department chief's son. He asked the department chief's son to handcuff himself to protect the girlfriend behind him. The department chief's son did as Do-jin said. After the department chief's son handcuffed himself, Do-jin asked him to scream for help. This scream attracted Dong-soo's attention. He immediately ran to where the noise came from. But when Dong-soo arrived, Do-jin had already taken the department chief's son's girlfriend away. At the same time, at the hospital, Jung-suk was taking care of the department chief. The department chief said that on the rooftop that day, besides the department chief, there was another person standing there. He was the stalker sent by Sung-ho. However, the department chief didn't did not know his true identity. The department chief was a little surprised that Jung-sok did not question him. Jung-sok was just like the department chief. They were both loving fathers. The department chief said that he had a photocopy of a report. The chief then gave Jung-sok the address to find the report. The chief told Jung-sok to leave. Jung-sok left before the chief's will. Jung-sok did not expect that. As soon as he left, an assassin disguised as a doctor approached the chief. When Dong-soo and the chief's son arrived, the chief had already passed away. Meanwhile, the stalker was interrogating Son-ho. He was an expert in finding information about his prey. The stalker took out a needle. Just one needle would cause immense pain. He warned Son-ho to tell the secret, but Son-ho did not say a word. The pain made Son-ho gradually collapse. The stalker was pleased to see Son-ho in such pain. Son-ho angrily asked if the stalker had killed his father. The stalker was surprised that Son-ho already knew the truth. The stalker asked why Son-ho had helped. Son-ho clearly knew that his father's death was related to Son-ho, but Son-ho's goal was to eliminate the boss who manipulated everything. The stalker laughed at Son-ho's unrealistic dream. He pointed a gun at Son-ho. Son-ho told him to stop. On the table was Son-ho's father's notebook. Inside was a series of numbers, which were the clues that Son-ho's father had left behind. Son-ho had found it before. The stalker wondered why Son-ho was telling that story. Son-ho said he just needed to stall for time. At that moment, someone called. The stalker carefully checked the phone. It turned out that Do-jin had captured the stalker's daughter. The stalker was furious that Son-ho had dared to capture his daughter. Son-ho threatened that if he did anything too much, his daughter would be in danger. In the end, the stalker chose to protect his daughter. Son-ho demanded that he hand over all his weapons. After subduing the stalker, Son-ho ordered Do-jin to let the stalker's daughter live. Son-ho then shot the stalker in the leg. Now Son-ho wanted the stalker to tell him who the boss was. However, even the stalker did not know who the boss was. Son-ho made the stalker write down everything he had known. Son-ho then asked him to call Sung-ho. The stalker's testimony was exactly the same as Taejun's. This pleased Sung-ho. Sung-ho thought that Son-ho was the same type of person as him. At the same time, Jung-sok was walking down the street. Suddenly he saw a dog. It was the dog that Shi-hun had sketched. Jung-sok knew there was a clue nearby, so Jung-sok followed the dog to an alley. Jung-sok groped his way to a dark room. When Jung-sok opened the door, he was surprised to see Son-ho. Why was Son-ho here? Jung-sok took out his gun and was about to rush in. He had heard the entire conversation between Son-ho and the stalker. Just as Son-ho was about to kill the stalker, Jung-sok rushed in to stop Son-ho. He ordered Son-ho to put down the gun. Could Son-ho be that mysterious person? Son-ho said that everything he did was not for personal gain. Son-ho's target was the boss. However, that could not justify the crime Son-ho committed. Now Son-ho would have to be punished. Son-ho said that Jung-sok was the person he respected the most. Just as Jung-sok was off guard, Son-ho pulled out his gun and shot him dead. Son-ho knelt down and apologized to Jung-sok, trembling. This was something Son-ho did not expect. A while later, Taejun appeared. He was saddened to see Jung-sok dead. After all, the two had known each other for a long time. That night, the police found Jung-sok's body in the woods. Dong-soo looked at Jung-sok sadly for the last time. A little later, the hacker girl appeared. They could not believe that Jung-sok was really dead. Jung-sok's funeral was quickly held. It was similar to Shi-hyun's sketch. Without their leader, the team's morale gradually collapsed. Son-ho also attended the funeral. Son-ho said that Jung-sok had looked for him before he died. Jung-sok had information related to the vagrant. Dong-soo heard Son-ho talk about the tramp. He was surprised that Son-ho knew about it. The vagrant was something Jung-sok had told Dong-soo privately. Dong-soo felt suspicious of Son-ho. Could Son-ho have something to do with Jung-sok's death? After Jung-sok's death, Shi-hyun became depressed. Once again, her drawings caused the death of someone close to her. Shi-hyun isolated herself in her room. She did not dare to face the truth. The hacker girl tried to contact Shi-hyun but could not. Dong-soo said to let Shi-hyun rest, and he would continue to search for clues. Now the clue was Son-ho. The code name of the vagrant was known only to Jung-sok and Dong-soo. So how did Son-ho know about it? Not to mention, Son-ho thought that the vagrant was used to refer to a secret source. Dong-soo suspected that it was the clue left by Jung-sok. The hacker girl could not believe that Son-ho was related to Jung-sok's death. Now Dong-soo needed the hacker girl's help. He would find out Son-ho's true identity. The hacker girl asked Dong-soo if she should tell Shi-hyun about this, but Dong-soo refused, because if she told Shi-hyun now, she would fall into despair. So Dong-soo investigated on his own. Starting from the file that the department chief gave Jung-soo, Dong-soo went to see the professor, whom the department chief trusted with the documents. After the professor knew about the current situation, he gave the documents to Dong-soo. After Dong-soo got the important documents, he gave them to the hacker girl. The hacker girl knew a financial expert. Dong-soo asked the hacker girl if she had found out the relationship relationship between Taejun and Seon-ho, but the hacker girl did not find anything special. Taejun had taken a year off work and a big fire broke out that year. Among the victims of the fire was Taejun's younger sister. The hacker girl told more about Seon-ho's files, including his medical records. Seon-ho had been hospitalized in a mental hospital. However, that happened when he was a child. Dong-soo decided to go to that hospital to investigate. The doctor says Seon-ho had post-traumatic stress disorder. It's related to the fire incident back then. It turned out that Seon-ho's class had gone on a field trip to that building. All the students in the class died, except for Seon-ho. The doctor still remembered Seon-ho's symptoms very clearly. At that time, Seon-ho had said that his classmates had died because of him. After Dong-soo got clue, he called the hacker girl. The hacker girl said that the arsonist was in prison. Dong-soo had to go there to meet him. Dong-soo asked the arsonist if he recognized the two photos. The prison warden said that the arsonist was not normal. This made Dong-soo angry. The arsonist admitted that he was the culprit. Dong-soo was upset and left, but the arsonist held him back. He hadn't wanted to die alone, so he had decided to set the fire. At the same time, Shihyun arrived at the base. Seeing Shihyun's sad face made the hacker girl worried. Shihyun still didn't understand why Jin kidnapped the department chief's son's girlfriend, but why Jin released her later. So Shihyun wanted to go see her. The girl said she had lost contact with her father since escaping from Dojin. This made Shihyun suspicious. The hacker girl researched the girl's father. He was an officer before, then became a civil servant. His background was completely clean. However, when he retired, he received a large sum of money from the National Intelligence Agency. He also had a commercial office. Shihyun went to check according to the location provided. The room was completely empty. Shihyun tried to check each box and cabinet. Suddenly, she saw a lot of money along with passports, as well as prepared weapons. Shihyun took the fake ID to check. At this moment, there was a strange noise behind her. Shihyun carefully held his gun and prepared to fight. At this moment, Dong-soo appeared. He was surprised that Shihyun had arrived. Dong-soo guessed the stalker's profession just by looking at the safe. He was an assassin working for high-ranking people. Then the two of them went to the building that the hacker girl was looking for. That was Seon-ho's secret base. They quickly went upstairs. Dong-soo discovered a secret room. There was a match on the door slot. Surely someone didn't want them to find this place. Dong-soo immediately pulled out his gun and went in to check. Inside were all the documents related to the boss, along with Dojin's wife's notebook. Suddenly, they heard a noise. The person locked inside was the stalker. Dong-soo angrily asked the stalker who killed Jung-soo. If he tells, Dong-soo will protect his daughter. The stalker said that Seon-ho was the one who had killed Jung-soo. Shihyun did not dare to believe this. Dong-soo asked the stalker if he dared to testify in court. This attitude made Shihyun confused. Could it be that Dong-soo was hiding something from Shihyun? Could it be that Seon-ho was the mysterious person? At the same time, Seon-ho was meeting with a lawyer. The lawyer was the boss's subordinate. Seon-ho would receive all the boss's instructions through the lawyer. After leaving, Seon-ho made an appointment to meet Taejun. Seon-ho said that he had a place to meet the boss. After receiving the good news, Taejun reported to Seon-ho. However, there was still no specific address. Time was running out. Seon-ho knew that this was his chance to catch the boss. Taejun then went to question the stalker. Taejun wanted the stalker to tell him what he knew, but the stalker wouldn't tell him the truth. He looked at Dojin. He felt that Dojin was different from them. Dojin didn't deny it. He threatened the stalker to tell him. Otherwise, the stalker's daughter would be in danger. The stalker gave the specific address where the boss would hold the meeting. Seon-ho immediately looked into the hotel. The photo of the hotel inauguration also included the lawyer. After everyone confirmed the location, Dojin was ordered to go inside to check. Seon-ho wanted Dojin to act secretly, not to be discovered by anyone. Dojin carefully observed the terrain inside the hotel, especially the number and location of the security guards. After confirming that the security guard was carrying a gun, Dojin deliberately bumped into him. Then he quickly took the security guard's wallet. Dojin carefully observed the number of floors the security guard went up. Then he brought the wallet to the receptionist to return. After receiving the wallet, the receptionist called the security guard. As soon as the security guard left his position, Dojin entered the room. Dojin discovered many sensors installed inside. Then he checked the windows and the desk. At this moment, security guard returned. He felt something was wrong. The security guard entered the room to check. Dojin took advantage of the moment when the security guard was leaving his post and left without leaving any clues. Dojin recounted everything he had investigated. The meeting room was equipped with the most advanced security system, with security cameras, bulletproof glass, and gas leak sensors. There would definitely be a lot of security on the day of the meeting. It was very difficult to get close. Now the most powerful weapon was the ability to see the future. Dojin returned after completing his mission. He sensed that someone had just broken in. Dojin carefully pulled out his gun. Then he fired continuously through the door. Dong-soo immediately returned fire. As soon as the gunfight ended, Do-jin kicked the door open and rushed in. At that moment, Dong-soo jumped up and locked eyes. Dong-soo ordered Shi-hyun to take the stalker and escape. Do-jin was furious and tried his best to escape Dong-soo's lock. The two rushed at each other and fought. Dong-soo's punches were ineffective against Do-jin. Do-jin jumped up, turned around, and kicked Dong-soo away. Dong-soo picked up a stick on the ground. Then he rushed to hit Do-jin. Do-jin, who had been a special agent, was not afraid at all. He immediately threw a kick that knocked Dong-soo to the ground. Then Do-jin quickly drove after Shi-hyun. Do-jin reported everything to Tae-jun. Tae-jun ordered Do-jin to kill the stalker to eliminate the important witness. Son-ho understood that Shi-hyun might know the truth. There was one thing that Son-ho needed to admit to Tae-jun. Since Jung-sok had died, Son-ho had not been able to see the future. Tae-jun was surprised when Son-ho lost his power. Son-ho guessed that it was probably because Shi-hyun's superpower was on par with Son-ho's. Son-ho needed to act carefully. Meanwhile, the stalker told Shi-hyun all his secrets. He was the one who had killed Shi-hyun's father. As soon as Shi-hyun stopped the car, he rushed forward and locked her neck. Shi-hyun tried to step on the gas. Then she stopped the car suddenly, causing the stalker to fall forward. Finally, Shi-hyun knocked the stalker out. Dong-soo, after being defeated by Do-jin, called Shi-hyun. Dong-soo warned her that Do-jin was chasing her, so Shi-hyun went straight to the police station. Dong-soo then arrived at the police station. The junior asked Dong-soo what was wrong. Dong-soo asked him to find the 5 best police officers. They needed to protect this stalker. Letting the prey escape upset Do-jin. He tried to storm into the police station, but was stopped by Tae-jun. Do-jin asked Tae-jun if there was a better way. Tae-jun said to let him in. Before leaving, Tae-jun apologized to Do-jin. This made Do-jin feel worried. Tae-jun promised that after he finished his work, he would tell Do-jin everything. Now Tae-jun had something to do. Tae-jun immediately called his men. Tae-jun wanted to take the stalker back for investigation. At the same time, Dong-soo was persuading the captain to help. When they saw the internal team appear, the police immediately stood up to welcome them. Tae-jun wanted to take the suspect away, but Dong-soo's junior said that Tae-jun's team had no authority to take people away. Tae-jun put pressure on the captain. The captain wanted Tae-jun to show his authorization papers. Tae-jun immediately called his superior. Then Tae-jun gave the phone to the captain. The superior asked the captain to hand over the suspect to Tae-jun. Dong-soo looked at the captain dejectedly. Now the decision was handed over to Tae-jun. Dong-soo looked around for help. Tae-jun laughed and said that no one would help Dong-soo. Dong-soo began to stir up the fighting spirit of his teammates. Finally, the policeman stood up in response to Dong-soo's words. Even the captain sided with Dong-soo. No one agreed to hand over the suspect to Tae-jun. Dong-soo had warned Tae-jun before. He would put Tae-jun in jail. At that moment, the ambulance arrived. Dong-soo ordered the person to take the suspect away. The stalker begged Dong-soo to let him make a phone call. Dong-soo agreed to give him the phone. As soon as the stalker called, Tae-jun pulled out a gun and shot the stalker dead. Everyone was surprised by Tae-jun's actions. Tae-jun continued to point the gun at Dong-soo. Then Tae-jun gave one last smile. Tae-jun ended his own life. Tae-jun's death made things complicated. Now the suspect was dead. All the documents were seized and destroyed by Son-ho and Do-jin. To be sure, Do-jin took the computer's hardware. Suddenly, Do-jin discovered a storage card hidden in the computer. Dong-soo asked Shi-hyun if she was ready to handcuff Son-ho. If she was not determined, then she should retreat. Shi-hyun asked why. Dong-soo suspected Son-ho. Dong-soo said that Son-ho was no different from the murderers. Son-ho was willing to kill others to achieve his goals. That night, Son-ho sat down and talked with Do-jin. Tae-jun's death affected both of them greatly. Son-ho could not let Tae-jun die in vain. At the same time, Son-ho was surprised to hear that Tae-jun was dead. Son-ho wondered why Tae-jun had chosen such an extreme action. Son-ho asked Son-ho what he would do next. Son-ho said he wanted to meet Son-ho. Do-jin asked Son-ho if he thought the boss would cancel tomorrow's meeting, but Son-ho insisted that the boss would not cancel the meeting. Son-ho ordered Do-jin to go to the hotel to observe the news. Meanwhile, Dong-soo's team was listening to the analyst professor's report. The professor had discovered a large amount of money. If all the big funds attacked with this money, the Korean economy would collapse. Through this, the boss's men wanted the government to work for them. Now there was no way to stop the boss's plan. Shi-hyun did not want to sit around and wait anymore, so she decided to go see Son-ho. This time Dong-soo agreed to Shi-hyun's proposal. Given the current situation, it was the best way to fight. At that moment, Shi-hyun felt a headache coming on. Even Son-ho saw it. They saw a new vision of the future. This time, Shi-hyun was shot and killed by a bullet. Before Shi-hyun woke up, Dong-soo secretly hid the picture that Shi-hyun drew. The hacker girl tried to stop Dong-soo, but Dong-soo convinced her to trust him. If necessary, Dong-soo would kill Do-jin and Son-ho. After Shi-hyun woke up, she called Son-ho. Sunho. She wanted to ask Sunho out to talk. Sunho walked slowly towards Shihyun. She didn't dare to look straight into Sunho's eyes. She couldn't accept the truth that Dong-soo said. Sunho understood that too. Sunho told Shihyun to turn around and look at him. Sunho understood what Shihyun was thinking. Shihyun couldn't hold back her tears. Why did Sunho do that? Sunho said that it all started many years ago. On the day of the fire, Sunho saved a man's life with his ability to see the future. However, the man later became an arsonist. As a result, 200 people died. Since then, Sunho has been carrying a heavy burden. This is the first time Shihyun has heard of this. After that incident, Sunho changed his way of thinking. His goal is to completely eliminate perverted scum who likes to kill people. Shihyun begged Sunho to stop. However, Sunho had gone too far. Sunho could not stop. He would kill the boss, even if Shihyun stopped him. Shihyun painfully watched Sunho leave. At the same time, Doojin was looking at the card that Taejun hid. Then, he drove to Taejun's secret hiding place. He followed the serial number on the card and opened a cabinet. Inside were the documents Taejun had collected. Among them was a picture that made Dojin angry. In the picture was Taejun, along with Dojin's wife and the bespectacled criminal. Now Dojin realized that the real enemies who had killed his wife were Taejun and Sunho. They were also the ones who had taken advantage of Dojin. Meanwhile, a close junior had given the diary to Dong-soo. Inside were the last words written by Dojin's wife. At that moment, the hacker girl called Dong-soo in. She analyzed Shihyun's picture and found out that it was a place to rent a locker. This time, the hacker girl put all her trust in Dong-soo. Dong-soo followed the instructions and went to the storage room. However, when he arrived, Doojin had left, leaving only a photo on the ground. Dong-soo was surprised to see the photo. He quickly returned to the base. Taejun knew that Dojin's wife had been killed. This proved that Sunho had become a monster. Sunho would not hesitate to use any means to gain benefits for himself. That day was the day of the secret meeting of the group of bosses. Right before the opening, they changed the location. The people who appeared there were all the leaders of important fields. That was the last meeting related to the upcoming plan. But Sunho had not seen the boss anywhere. Everyone just smiled at Sunho. This made Sunho feel confused. The lawyer explained that the person with title of boss had passed away a long time ago. That organization had been formed in the last century. The port boss was the symbol of power, or rather the lawyer had created a fake boss. The people sitting there were the real final bosses, the ones who held the fate of the country. However, Sunho did not believe it. He was sure that there was a leader in control, otherwise the organization would not exist. Sunho asked the lawyer if she was the boss. The lawyer was surprised that Sunho guessed correctly. Sunho bowed respectfully to the lawyer. After the meeting ended, Sunho asked Sunho to come to the secret base. Sunho handed Sunho the documents that the police had investigated. Sunho carefully read the documents that Sunho gave him. Then he turned to look at Sunho. Could he trust Sunho? Sunho ordered Sunho to deal with Dojin. This was Sunho's final test. Sunho revealed to Dojin that he had met the real boss. Now nothing could stop Sunho. A while later, Dojin called Sunho. Dojin wanted to meet Sunho to talk. Sunho finally agreed to meet Dojin. After hanging up, Sunho looked at Sunho, who was lying on the ground. The final battle officially began. Sunho immediately tied up Sunho. As soon as Sunho woke up, he angrily asked Sunho what he was doing. Sunho asked Sunho what the boss's identity was. Only then did Sunho realize that he had been tricked by Sunho. Sunho laughed and said that this was not a child's game. What could Sunho, who had never killed anyone, do to Sunho? Sunho coldly walked in front of Sunho. Sunho said that he was the one who killed Jungso. Sunho was a little scared when he heard that, but he still tried to act calm and responded. Sunho took out a medicine box from his pocket. Inside was the medicine that the stalker had used. Sunho understood the pain it brought. Sunho immediately injected the drug into Sunho. He screamed in pain as the drug slowly entered his body. Sunho finally told the truth. However, the truth about the boss was unacceptable to Sunho. Sunho had done many things to find out who was behind it all, but that organization did not have a boss. Sunho was afraid and said the name of the lawyer who had been the head of the organization. Only then did Sunho understand everything. Sunho asked Sunho to give him his phone. Then, Sunho texted to make an appointment to meet the lawyer. While Sunho was texting, Sunho escaped from his bonds. Then he rushed to push Sunho to escape. This made Sunho angry. Sunho immediately grabbed the gun. Then, Sunho fired a warning shot at Sunho. Sunho was afraid and ran into a corner. He held a pair of scissors and waited for Sunho to appear. After waiting for a while and seeing no movement, Sunho came out of his hiding place. Just then, Sunho appeared. Sunho pointed the gun at Sunho's face. Now Sunho's identity had been exposed. Sunho didn't have much time left. Sunho tried to convince Sunho to stop, but it was too late. Sunho had killed too many people. A loud explosion ended Sunho's life. After Sunho had killed his enemies, he saw the future again. again. This time, Do-jin would kill Son-ho. Meanwhile, in the conference room, the hacker girl spoke her mind. Do-jin had just been used anyway, but this made Dong-su upset. It was Do-jin who had killed Dong-su's girlfriend. He angrily walked out. At that time, Son-ho called Dong-su. Son-ho admitted everything, and of course, killing Dong-su's girlfriend. Son-ho made an appointment to meet Dong-su. Son-ho had something to tell Dong-su. Dong-su angrily said he would kill Son-ho, but Son-ho was willing to accept it. After getting the meeting address, Dong-su immediately took the gun and left. He chose to keep quiet so that Shi-hyun would not know what happened. At this time, Do-jin was waiting for Son-ho. Today was the day Do-jin would take revenge. When the meeting time arrived, Son-ho called Do-jin. Son-ho saw the scene where Do-jin shot him. That meant that Do-jin knew the whole truth. Son-ho apologized to Do-jin. Do-jin angrily asked why Son-ho was involved in this. It turned out that Son-ho had foreseen the future. Instead of saving Do-jin's wife, Son-ho decided to use Do-jin's hatred to serve his plan. Son-ho begged Do-jin to give him a little more time. After this was over, Son-ho would let Do-jin kill him. Do-jin now understood what Dong-su said. What Son-ho did was not justice. He had no right to sacrifice someone else's life like that. Do-jin had done too many evil things, so Do-jin would kill Son-ho right now. Seon-ho confidently said that Do-jin was not his opponent. At that moment, Dong-su appeared. It turned out that Seon-ho had intentionally arranged for Dong-su and Do-jin to meet. Seon-ho had gone to the meeting place with the lawyer. Do-jin laughed when he saw Dong-su appear. Do-jin apologized for accidentally killing Dong-su's girlfriend. Both of them had been used by Seon-ho. Do-jin begged Dong-su to let him kill Seon-ho first, then Dong-su could kill Do-jin at any time. Dong-su said that he knew everything, but one thing would not change. It was Do-jin who killed Dong-su's girlfriend, so Dong-su wanted to end it all here. Both of them held guns and pointed them at each other. Dong-su carefully stepped forward. Suddenly, Do-jin lowered his gun. This made Dong-su angry. He shouted and asked what Do-jin was doing. Do-jin said that that had been Son-ho's intention, so Do-jin did not want Son-ho to get what he wanted. Dong-su angrily rushed forward and punched Do-jin. Do-jin had killed Dong-su's fiancée, but then Do-jin chose the most comfortable way to die. Dong-su angrily fired 2 shots right next to Do-jin. Then Dong-su turned around and left. Dong-su told Do-jin to turn himself in. This surprised Do-jin. At that moment, Son-ho appeared. Just as Seon-ho was about to shoot Dong-su to death, Do-jin took the bullet for Dong-su. Before his last moment, Do-jin said that if he met Dong-su's girlfriend again, he would ask her for forgiveness. Do-jin no longer wanted to fight. In Do-jin's last dream, he finally made it back to his wife, and she was still alive. Do-jin smiled contentedly and breathed his last. At that time, at the secret base, Shi-hyun found Sung-ho based on the painting. She immediately called Dong-su to come to the scene. When he arrived, Dong-su found Sung-ho being interrogated. It seemed that Son-ho wanted to get information about the boss. After returning, Dong-su revealed that Do-jin was dead and that the one who had killed Do-jin was Son-ho. This surprised Shi-hyun. After successfully unlocking Sung-ho's phone, they found that the last message had been sent to the lawyer. Dong-su understood that the lawyer might be the real boss. At that moment, Son-ho called. Son-ho knew that Shi-hyun was looking for him. Seon-ho said that he was with the lawyer. She was the one who had ordered the murder of their parents. Shi-hyun asked Son-ho where he was going. Son-ho begged Shi-hyun not to come looking for him because he had seen her death. He then hung up and left. The future that Son-ho saw was completely opposite to Shi-hyun's future. The hacker girl then told the truth. There was a sketch that Dong-su had burned. Shi-hyun was angry that Dong-su hid her. Shi-hyun worriedly went to the hacker girl. The hacker girl only remembered the picture of Son-ho in an old school, and there was a statue outside. Shi-hyun immediately recognized where Son-ho was going. Then Shi-hyun silently left. When Dong-su returned, Shi-hyun had disappeared. Dong-su felt something was wrong, so he called. Shi-hyun said she was going to the final destination. Shi-hyun said that she would catch Son-ho herself. Then Shi-hyun hung up. Dong-su asked the hacker girl to locate Shi-hyun. Based on the information found, the place Shi-hyun went to was an abandoned school on the outskirts of the city. Son-ho was now facing the lawyer. She asked Son-ho what he wanted. Son-ho coldly asked where the lawyer's group was going to make the deal, but the lawyer just smiled and said that Son-ho couldn't stop plan. Son-ho angrily fired a warning shot. This scared the lawyer. Son-ho pointed the gun at the lawyer's face. The lawyer said that she and Son-ho had the same goal, which was to change the world. They just had different ways of carrying out plan. The lawyer tried to convince Son-ho to join her side, but she accidentally mentioned Son-ho's father. This made Son-ho angry. Just as Son-ho was about to pull the trigger, Shi-hyun appeared in time. She wanted Son-ho to put down the gun, but Son-ho couldn't stop. This was Son-ho's only way. Shi-hyun said that even if Son-ho eliminated the lawyer, someone else would take her place. That person would be much more dangerous than the lawyer. Son-ho went crazy and knocked out the lawyer. Was Shi-hyun's intention to let an evil person like the lawyer live. Shihan persuaded Sonho to join her side. They would make the bad guys pay. Sonho did not want to argue here. If Shihan wanted to stop Sonho, then kill Sonho here. This made Shihan hesitate. If Shihan did not shoot, there would be no way to stop Sonho. The only person who could stop Sonho was Shihan. Shihan shook her head in pain. She begged Sonho to stop. Sonho coldly said that if Shihan did not shoot, then he would shoot. Just as Sonho pulled the trigger, Dongsu appeared in time to save Shihan. However, the bullet hit Dongsu. Sonho suddenly saw a new vision of the future. Now the whole country knew the ugly truth about the group of bosses. Those involved had all paid a heavy price. This was the most beautiful vision that could happen. Sonho decided to leave this world. At that moment, Dongsu shot Sonho in the arm to stop him from doing something stupid. Sometime later, Dongsu returned to his house. He carefully cleaned up each of his fiance's souvenirs. Then he and everyone went to burn incense for Jungso. Shihan thanked Dongsu for saving Sonho's life. Dongsu said he had no intention of saving Sonho. Dongsu came for Shihan. However, there was one thing that made Dongsu wonder. It was clear that Sonho had the chance to kill them but didn't. Shihan guessed that Sonho had seen a new vision. At this time, the lawyer ordered her subordinates to kill Dongsu and Shihan. Dongsu and Shihan's mission was not over yet. This time, they would take down this evil organization. The movie ended here. Thank you for watching this movie. Hope we will see each other again in the next products.